This is you just trying to back into I spent all this time and money in this office and I'm being told my files are bullshit.
Well, the office made them way worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, I bet it did.
So, because so there's a couple
Smaller
of
space?
factors.
Like, is it bouncing off the walls more? I don't
So
know how
there
audio
is
works,
behind
but I'm
me is a
guessing.
2-story open area.
Yeah.
That's probably not helping. I'm also speaking into a corner that has no like paintings on the walls or anything, so it is just like all hard surfaces. But like people may have messaged me independently of Kato, just being like, "Hey man, really enjoying the show, but since you moved offices, you've been a little boomy." A little hot on the show.
People
and,
are doing this? People are like,
people have reached out.
Wait, whoa. Sorry, let me clarify. Are we talking about like randos on Twitter, or are we talking
Yes.
about like
You're talking about
fully randos, not like not an acquaintance who comes
randos
to you.
or people who are very enthusiastic about the work that we do, and we would love for them to continue showing the sort of zeal that would be, I pay attention to the work so much. I know that Rob moved offices. I'm worried about Rob, they're worried about you.
Yeah.
They just want to make sure you sound great.
Sometimes I'm just asking because sometimes like acquaintances of mine will like reach out to me about some dumb bullshit that one of us said or one of you said, and they'll be like, "Hey, can you believe this shit?" And I'll be like, "I know, right?" But that does happen, and like people will complain about like audio issues to me personally on occasion, and so I didn't know if it was like one of the beautiful, brilliant people who watches this show on Twitter, or like, you know, an acquaintance. That's what I was trying to clarify.
No, these are folks. So I think these are folks who felt especially spurred to reach out because I have betrayed my allegiances as an audiophile, as someone who does like a nice, clean audio setup and good reproduction. And I think there are a lot of people who are like, Rob just must not know. If Rob knew what he sounds like on these recordings, he couldn't let this product go out. He couldn't live with himself. And so people were just reaching out with helpful advice like, hey, you know, they sell baffling you can hang on the walls and ceiling just to like sort of cut down on the bounce of some of those sound waves. Maybe consider repositioning your mic. Does your office have carpet? Maybe consider putting carpet down. It does have carpet.
This is cursed knowledge. This sort of seems like the sort of thing that if I knew this, I think I would consult with Kato and say we shouldn't tell Rob. I feel like this is going to cause Rob profound. I feel like I know Rob like long enough, close enough. It's like sometimes there's information you just don't tell people. Like they don't need to know this because now that Rob knows this, I know Rob, and Rob is he's going to be very stressed about this information.
Oh, I'm not stressed. Kato had a solution.
Yeah, Rob's got the fixes in.
I have heard this so many times with different things, and I have to tell you, the evidence does not gesture in the direction of this is with Rob. It's whack-a-mole to fix that one. Oh dang, fixing that hole appeared to have caused 3 more. But tell me, please, hit me.
Kind of, because there's like there's like a actual like reason this is probably going to be a much better fix. Like there's a like mechanical reason or in terms of like electronic reason that this fix will work. It's
There's just a pleading hopefulness to what you're saying right now. It's just like in the back, in the back of your voice, and I just want to like make sure I'm drawing attention to like the childlike hope that I'm hearing within you.
It's gonna be fine.
I might have run out ahead, and I'll be like, well, you know, we're launching this new company. Our new company couldn't possibly just like have this kind of dog shit audio going out there. So surely we should just get a new.
Okay, Rob.
I'm gonna bleep that one, and then we'll go circle back around.
No, that's fine. No, I don't have. You don't have to bleep anything. I'm like, are you kind of just off? I know the percentage of the company I have. Do you have to just buying like random audio equipment?
Not random. Curated, hand selected.
You can't. Okay, you cannot turn your buying habits into this company.
Well, so this is so I bought. Look, I paid for it. The company hasn't paid for it. We'll discuss about reimbursement. But the point is, Kato, explain to the people. So I have a condenser microphone. To me, that was like, I got a good microphone. It real good. But apparently there's degrees of good, and good is situational. And the condenser microphone is not actually good for the purposes I've been using it for a number of years. This is a hand-me-down mic that a friend of mine gave me.
Right.
Kato, I guess this is the point where I can also confess one reason he gave it to me is that it may have gotten lightly bonked at a certain point, and the condenser microphone has kind of a weird kink in it. Audio quality always seemed fine, but like it's a little
in the grill, in the metal grill, it just has a little dent in it.
Yeah.
That's fine as long as it didn't hit the diaphragm, which it doesn't seem to have.
That's
the whole thing. Fucked up.
That's why the grill's here.
To protect the diaphragm. Yes.
So the condenser microphone, what's that doing?
It's taking in a lot of information, as much as it can, at a wide range of frequencies, such that it's
stuff that we don't even hear when we're listening to a room because our brain just like processes it all away.
No, yeah, like there's like you can imagine it as a light fuzz, like. Imagine a dandelion. It's the audio equivalent of that. Just a low level, not even a hiss, but they're like and it's always there. Like you don't really notice it. It's just like the ambient noise of like ACs, fans, computers, whatever exists in the space. And like if you have a real sensitive mic, it's gonna pick it up. And it's gonna pick it up to varying degrees depending on the type of mic you have, right? Condensers are super sensitive, and sensitive in sort of a wide range. Like they tend to have wider like scopes of like where they're listening to. Not quite omnidirectional, but leaning towards omnidirectional rather than like, you know, pinpointed like a shotgun mic. Mm-hmm. And that's fine if you have, like you said before, a fully baffled, sound-controlled space where you have lots of, cloth on the walls to make sure you're not echoing, because that was one of the big things when you moved to this office. Just like all of a sudden, your echo was...
And obviously I can't just put shit on these walls because like it's not my aesthetic right now. Like I can't just put baffling up.
Sorry. You know what? I think we've been a little bit too harsh on Rob, because Kato's talking about how our brains normally filter out the kind of noise that ruins Rob's track, and which is just to say that, like, you know, Rob's home is built around psychoacoustics, not around like true microphone acoustics. We've known this from the beginning. He told us that like his speakers were psychoacoustically tuned,
right.
not tuned for microphones. We can't say anything to him. He didn't sell us a false bill of goods.
I mean, it's not as though Rob is someone who is increasingly making part of their career an audio-focused approach to bringing in money, and then at the same time that they're doing that and taking bigger leaps into that world, built an office that they refuse to adjust in that direction because they are not aesthetically there.
I'm sorry. How many more sacrifices am I expected to make? I said yes to the oatmeal carpeting that extends out of the hallway. I wanted hardwood, but MK was like, "Are you an idiot? Like, do you know what that's going to do to your traps?"
MK, no.
Wait, why didn't you just get a nice rug? That aside, sorry, Rob, how psychoacoustically pleasant is your office?
You know, I think it's pretty. I think it's very nice. It's very isolated up here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's open to the second. It's a second floor balcony, kind of just open to the rest of the.
Okay, so like every time, yes. So like if MK's downstairs watching TV or something, I am hearing that TV.
Okay, what about Mina moving?
Every time Mina moves, and also Mina loves to come into the atrium, into the foyer, and make her little poof noises.
Does Mina ever sit like near you or next to your desk?
Oh, frequently.
Does she wag her little tail and smack it up against the side of the desk
she
sometimes?
Does. Do you hear that?
Wow, I was wondering what those fucking bumps were.
Yeah, no, she whips her little tail and it like thwaps against things. Wow,
against
microphones.
Yeah.
So the point is, but so they make other types of microphones for like this type of work.
Yeah, they're
And
they do.
Kato hooks me up.
Like
and
mine.
was like
this
is a
one.
business expense.
Wait, also, I use a condenser mic, Kato.
Yeah, but it's a shitty one.
Nice.
This is the thing.
Properly scoped for the mission.
Damn right it is. Fanbyte bought this for me.
Like, it doesn't have the amount of frequency response that Rob's does. Like it probably also has like a slightly different. I think it might be a hypercardioid.
Cardioid.
Yeah. Yes. Because your noise levels in the background are much better than Rob's.
Anyway, so Kato knew Kato's known what the fix is for ages. Kato was like, if I could put you on any mic, Rob, to deal with the audio that I'm hearing, this is the one. It would save me time. It would make for a better show. And so we sorted it out.
Just in time
After
for expenses to
6
come out
short
of our
years.
Yeah.
salaries.
A dynamic mic. A dynamic mic is the answer for this sort of intent. Like, here's the thing. We have a larger dynamic range than most podcasts.
Is it because of the good times?
It's because of the good times. We have lots of great times. You know, sometimes
Yeah,
we're like
hell
up
yeah.
here and it's awesome. You know, sometimes we're contemplative and we're down here. And like a lot of podcasts are more like even keeled. What?
You're telling me that a lot of podcasts don't have just some guys being dudes?
No.
No, like
They don't have the vibes.
no, because those dudes were never hard dudes. And hard podcasters create good times. And good times.
Shut the fuck up.
Actually, isn't Hard Dudes also the
God damn it.
Robert Yang game about that's
Yes.
Hard Lads?
Hard lads.
Hard
kiss?
lads.
Hard
Yeah.
lads. Give us
Yeah,
a
about
kiss.
beating each other's with
I
a
would
chair
listen
and
to
then
their
kissing.
podcast.
Yeah. The hard lads.
But
No, but
yeah,
see,
so-
here's the thing. People like that sort of podcast that you're thinking of, Ren, has shit audio. It never hasn't. People are always constantly clipping. It's bad.
Patrick's sitting there like, but nobody ever cares. Those podcasts
Nobody ever
are
cares.
huge.
These podcasts are so fucking popular.
But here's our
People listen to them on
competitive
AirPods.
No,
better
we-
audio.
We can like lean more in their direction. We can have a misogyny minute on this podcast if we think it would like help the numbers.
Absolutely not. Oh. So we're moving Rob to a dynamic mic, which will still take in a lot of the frequencies, but at a much more reduced.
Don't worry
sort
about it. It'll
of,
solve all the
scope.
problems. No, you don't need
Yeah.
to say that part, Kato. It'll solve all the problems.
Should I not say the
anyway.
name of the microphone so people could look it up and see what the price is?
Are you about to
Sure.
piss? Are you about to piss me off somehow?
I think Patrick might have some concerns, but again, we'll negotiate this as
Yeah.
partners and friends but also partners.
I have the RE320 Electro Voice broadcast mic, dynamic variable D. It's a great microphone. It is the baby brother of the RE20, the legendary broadcast microphone used in radio stations across the nation. If you
I'm not. No, this is fine. I thought you were
There's
gonna
a
There's a reason. There's a
approval.
reason. I'm in a lot of DMs with two people on this call. None of these came across my desk.
So I thought
It's almost as
like
though someone has something to
1500.
hide.
I was like, we'll break this to Patrick at the right time on air on Waypoint Radio.
No, this isn't bad. I'm looking at the Patrick. Have you looked it up?
No, they hid it from me. I don't need to look it up. They know me. I don't trust you either.
What do you?
Darting eyes on this call.
You said they don't trust me, or you don't trust me.
I don't trust your interpretation of their interpretation
Well,
of it.
no. I'm looking at this number, and this number is like, this number's fine. This number's fine. Based on other numbers that I've heard, I think this number's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, I'm just curious.
This is like
What is a
Renata's
fine
worth.
number? What is a fine number for a new microphone?
I don't know. I haven't done the research.
But just like you got in your heart.
But I don't
like,
trust
in your
either of
heart,
you and
in
your definitions of
heart.
fine. That's the that's
Okay, I thought it was going to be 1,500, and it was nowhere even within
Nowhere
that
near
ballpark.
1,500.
No.
No.
Patrick, are you worried it was in that territory?
if you're saying it's nowhere near 1,500 and that made you feel better, the number's still big.
Number's still okay. So the number might be a little higher than Patrick. Okay. Patrick, like when I say like broadcast quality.
We are, we are definitely putting out
Broadcast
like a
quality.
128 like kbps like audio file. Got to get that broadcast quality audio.
Hey, I export at 192.
Psychoacoustically attuned
Okay.
for broadcast quality.
So Pat, I'll bet you're thinking like it's gotta be like $1,000 microphone or $900, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't. Holy
Mhm.
shit, right? But it's probably worth that much, right? But we got it. We got it for just a humble I don't have the link in front of me. 450?
Wait, sorry. The RE320?
No, they already
Oh
20.
shit. Ren was looking at the wrong one.
I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kato, say the number again.
RE20.
Uh-oh.
This is the
Oh,
type
you
of
motherfuckers.
What's good, Internet? It's June 1st, 2023, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio,
my
episode
contract.
569.
Nice.
I am your host, Rob Zachney, and I'm joined by Ricardo Contreras, Patrick Klepek, and Renata Price.
Hi.
Well, this is it. This is the last Waypoint Radio. Off to a great start here. Everyone's in stunned silence, probably because it is the final Waypoint Radio. Believe it or not, we did not actually aim to end on episode number 569, but it actually did just kind of come out that way.
It did. I think the conversation was like, what if we engineered it that way? And I was like, let's just see how things kind of work out. And but there's also discussion like, has that number been tainted? Is that number still funny? And we just ended up in a place where it happened anyway, and it is still
But I think
funny.
we all agree it's kind of tainted. Like
It is a little bit tainted.
it's a blue check number. No,
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
the blue checks have it.
No. Don't give them that.
Just like that fucking
No,
Doge, man.
they do. They do.
Like you remember you used to delight where it's like, oh, it's the Doge, and now
They
you're like,
can't
I wish
just
that puppy had never been born.
They can't have Shibas. They're too
No.
pure.
They do.
They kind of do, but also they also have that like crying, laughing face emoji.
The
They've got
crying,
that.
laughing face. I'm not mad. This is so funny.
Yeah, no, they've got that. They've got haha.
Laughing? They have laughing?
Just no. Typing
You know what? I'm
out,
not.
haha.
That's the line I'm drawing. I'm allowed to laugh.
Hey, folks, we're reclaiming laughter.
Mm.
It's time for the left to get better at comedy.
That's why. Yeah, that's why we call it the lefter.
You know, we'll workshop that a little bit. We'll take that. We'll just like go back and we'll throw it against the wall a few times. See what's up. See, this is why we need writers' rooms. This is why they're so valuable. This is why writers' rooms are something we need to preserve, and like, you know, it's worth fighting for.
I was at a graduation I was at a graduation over the weekend where during the commencement speech, the like head of one of the colleges revealed that half of her fucking speech had been written by ChatGPT. Sorry, this information just like popped out of my mind.
That is
and, like,
extreme
staggered
college
me.
administrator energy, though. It's like college Aladdin with people who are like, I'm here to burn this institution to the ground and make a lot of money doing it, and I'm an idiot.
Yeah, no, she was like, this is good, actually. She was like, this is simultaneously also like, this is bad. She's like, it's bad that this exists, but I will be doing it. And it was
No.
a truly insane moment in a weird graduation.
There's a lot of folks who think they can pull that, right? Where it's like, boy, wouldn't it be kooky if I like used AI to create a whole bunch of work? That'd be pretty wild, right?
The
Like,
kids are
obviously
gonna,
it's not
the kids are
good,
gonna
but,
get
like,
it. They're gonna think I'm cool.
What could be more System Shock than using AI artwork? Yeah.
Oh no, turns out no one liked it. Oh no. God,
Yeah.
the fucking hush that fell over that audience. This wasn't a liberal arts college. How do you think that's gonna work? Whatever.
Yeah, but again, the people who are at the higher echelon, like everything is like everything gets hijacked by basically like money people and people who are like all like I don't see value, I just see money and like dollar
fair.
signs. Like that old line about Margaret Thatcher, knew the price of everything but the value of nothing.
Yeah.
Is like kind of the direction the entire world went.
Well, it also could be as simple as they thought it would be funny because these AI things are trendy right now, and it's just like, oh, here's a bit I landed on. Like, I'm going to connect with the kids. They're going to think this is like funny and interesting because they're all using it in their essays, and it's like, it's not that funny.
No.
Don't try to be funny in your commencement speech.
No.
And yet here we are trying to be funny at our own last episode. kind of like
a
trying to avoid
commencement speech.
funereal vibes.
Yeah, are you like, well,
Mhm.
do you consider yourself graduating from Waypoint or perishing?
Hmm.
No.
If you'd asked me a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, last week was all right. 2 weeks ago, a little more of a, it's been weird over the last couple of weeks where it's sort of like when, like someone close to you dies and people are like, they feel like they should ask, but they're like, do you want to just ask that person the same question over and over? It's like, sometimes I've got people like, do you want me to ask how you're doing or like what's going on with your job? I'm like, not really. No. Like, I just thank you for acknowledged. I'm telling you that you were thinking of me and you know what's going on and you saw that Facebook post. But no, I don't want to explain to you all the shit that's going on right now. It's complicated. You won't understand it, and I am tired.
We'll
of
catch up
explaining it
another
to you.
time, Palmer.
I unfriended him after that. I don't think I said on when he got eviscerated, I think in the Giant Bomb subreddit, like when he went and like was actually straight up posting there. At some point, Palmer Luckey and I became friends on Facebook because I was an early follower of virtual reality and covering it. And so we must have, I don't know that we actually met in person, but for some reason, connected in the same way that like, oh, friend invite, whatever. Like, it's easier to contact you if I want to get in touch about something. And then when I posted personally to like friends and family, like the people who like still use, Facebook, I post pictures of my kid there and otherwise don't really check it, but posted there just to give like aunts and uncles an update on what's going on. All the people just, like condolences, yada, yada, you'll be fine. And then just Palmer Luckey being like, hey, you piece of shit. I'm so glad you lost your job. And I was like, wow. All right. So I deleted the comment because I did not need to turn that into a flame war with my aunts and uncles. But then immediately
that would have been really funny as the thing.
It would have. Well, I got to experience it in person, which is like was late, laid off on a Thursday, or at least like told that the job was going away. And then a family member, an aunt, had passed away a couple days prior, and so the funeral was the day after on that Friday. And so I went there, and like one of my favorite aunts came up to me, like, "Who's this Palmer Luckey fucker? Why is this some billionaire getting in there being a punk in your Facebook comments?" So do we need to do something? I was like, I don't know what you mean by that, but no, it's just very funny, and he's a loser.
You could
and
have
don't.
You could have caused drastic political action.
I can't. Well, there's certain members of my family that might maybe know a person that know a person. But I was like, no, let's leave Palmer Luckey to stewing his own shit, and which is what he ended up doing when he got to that subreddit. I mean, just if you haven't read any of this, because this is like pretty far down the rabbit hole, if you find there's the Giant Bomb subreddit, and then like they must have posted a thread about Palmer Luckey shit posting about us. He went in there to try and defend and explain himself, and was just torn to shreds, and it was delightful.
I think something that struck me so much too was they did nothing but like lie about me for years, and it's like, Palmer, I know when people talked about you, and it wasn't a period of years after Waypoint was founded.
Hey, I'm gonna come to y'all in a moment of honesty. I didn't remember who he was. I listened to this podcast like every episode 4 years. I didn't know who that motherfucker was.
We didn't spend. I wrote. I think 1 or 2 articles when there was a period right before Trump was elected in which, you know, he was beginning his like public turn to the right, which
He's
is not
becoming
like,
a human crying face laughing emoji.
Yeah. It was that energy, you know, 6 years ago, and I forget the exact details, but basically, like he, you know, he's giving money to like, you know, Republican politicians and Trump, and like some of that had turned into this meme thing. Like I forget the exact whatever, but I wrote up an article about it, and like it's Waypoint, so we were a little more pointed instead of just reporting this guy did this. It was like this guy did this, and he's also a piece of shit for having done it, and like that was it. Like it wasn't like we dedicated a week to talk about. Welcome to Palmer Luckey Week. Here are all the things we don't like about Palmer Luckey, but we, for some reason, that article, I think because we went beyond just, like a lot of what happened, a lot of like what Waypoint tried to do was, I think this happens more often in a lot of publications. I think we were part of a trend towards not just saying the thing that happened, but then also a little bit of how we feel so that maybe that lands with how you feel. And we were just more explicit and like swore a little more often as a result of making those arguments. But like that was written up everywhere. We were not alone in reporting that. It's not as though like Waypoint was on that beat, but for some reason, I think because we sort of held our middle finger up at him, that just stuck. Like you want to see living rent free in someone's head manifested. Like that is like, I have not, you know, it is the Draper thing. Like I have not thought about you in years, but clearly you have thought about me constantly. And I find that delightful.
Yeah, it was a very strange twist in all that. But back to the question of, is this are we graduating or is it a funeral? I think like a couple weeks ago, I was feeling a bit funereal, but sometimes facts change and then your opinion changes and your outlook on things changes. And so I think it is a bit more like, I don't know. Here's the thing. Graduation, I think I'm sentimental about it. So I'm still like, graduation feels like, achieved. Now time to move on to the next thing. And I don't think I feel like Waypoint is something graduating from. It's just a chapter that is closing.
So here's the thing. I had a much more, this is not like I didn't go to my graduation. I didn't know I had graduated until my diploma showed up at my home and I realized that I had successfully put in my graduation request. And so like, I actually kind of do associate graduation with a kind of sense of like, well, I guess it's time to do another thing kind of similar to this. Maybe, I don't know. And so that's why that's my personal association. But yeah, I was simply curious.
I don't remember anything about my graduation. Not because I was like incoherent. It just didn't make an imprint. Like I showed up, I got the diploma, but like I don't remember nothing about the speech or the ceremony like left any lasting impression with me. I remember my high school one more than my college one.
I was gonna ask, what was the last graduation that y'all actually did? Because I didn't do my master's one.
I went to high school, but I didn't go to university.
Yeah, I went to like my undergraduate graduation was what
the last like actual thing. Yeah.
Well, I didn't like my part of it was like my friends in high school. Like were also a lot of my same friends in college with an expanded base of people. And I felt like when you go to a high school graduation, like smaller class of people, more tight-knit groups, as opposed to college, it feels like much more spread out. It's like, I remember when, you know, I got like the notification from the college, like, you want like a yearbook to remember? I was like, I don't know. I don't give a shit about any of these people. Like I've hung out with like the same 30-ish people like during this time. Like I don't think we're going to be in the yearbook. I don't need it. No thanks.
You know, it is a Waypoint Radio, so the games are still happening. Games are not ending with
games.
Waypoint.
No,
are eternal.
They insist on continuing to happen. Ren, I think we can finally talk about Street Fighter 6.
It's true.
Did you ever find a control scheme you were happy with?
So, did I reteach myself how to play on pad? Yes, I did. Did I get to like a relatively competent level on pad? Yes, I did. However, would I have wished that I was using a real controller the entire time? Yes, I did. However, I had a really nice time. Like I did, like overall,
A nice enough time that you think you might go to PC and get your preferred control scheme set up and continue
100%.
your Street Fighter journey.
I'm going to be doing that 100% with not even thinking about it. So like the situation is such that like I put a lot of time into one character exclusively. I didn't touch any other characters. And I developed a pretty good understanding of that character and her like place in the roster. And like this is the difficulty of like talking about fighting games and like reviewing fighting games, is that like the game doesn't exist yet. Like the game doesn't exist until like it is a fully populated ecosystem where the community is constantly like determining new tech. Up until this point, it is like the version of Street Fighter that I have access to is a fantasy of what Street Fighter 6 will eventually be and how I will eventually interact with it. Because like if I jump into a like pre-release lobby, I will see like Rooflemonger or like some other like, you know, major fighting game YouTuber hanging out in the same lobby as me. Unless I get way better really fast, that's never going to happen to me. And so it is like a fundamentally different experience than to playing the game at release. And so I just want to like note that. However, I can say that I like really kind of love Street Fighter 6 and specifically Manon. I think she's like one of the like the most fun fighting game characters I've ever encountered. And is like extremely, extremely interesting. I think she may be, hey Kato.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of teasing a slight romance between her and Marissa.
Wow.
Because her entire story mode is Marissa is another fighter who's like this like big Greek woman who loves Spartans.
She's a grappler, right?
Yes. No, she's not. She's not a grappler. She is a
Marissa?
She's not a grappler. She's a big body.
Okay.
She's just like a big body non-grappler. Think like a Gold Lewis Dickinson.
Yeah.
Pretty slow, does have a command grab, but for the most part just like beats the shit out of you with her really big fists.
Yeah.
And yeah, her Manon's whole story mode is about going like fighting people and everyone complaining, her being like, everyone calls me strong, but really what they mean is that they don't really register that I'm in pain a lot of the time. And then she fights Marissa, and when Marissa calls her strong, she's like, okay, I kind of did like it from her. You know what? I kind of did like it from her. Do you want to fight? Hey, do you want to fight again and kind of keep fighting for a really long time? I really like it when you said that I was strong, by the way, which is just like a little bit fruity. Like the correct amount. However, yeah, I'm like really thrilled with Street Fighter 6 and like the time that I had with it. And it was nice to like have to relearn a control scheme.
So if memory serves, like it's been so long, but I think when I flash back to Street Fighter 5, there's a few things that seem to rub people the wrong way right out of the gate. One is that it seemed very pared down compared to Street Fighter 4 just at launch in terms of like, where's our story? What is there to do in this game besides like go play multiplayer? And the vibe was that Street Fighter 5 did not really offer a whole lot in that regard. It has some very good tools for like not just multiplayer play, but also like practicing. But it wasn't a lot of fun for people who were just there to mess around and like play Street Fighter casually. And then there also seemed to be just a real like dislike of the direction they'd gone with the game. Like that seemed to be another, like, I felt like a lot of it was concentrated on just like, was it about the way like the V trigger was like built and used in that game, that it had taken some of the art out of it, or like it was not an interesting decision.
Yes, people did not like the V trigger and like the V skills, et cetera, et cetera. I think that they have done a much better job of making their equivalent in this game way better. It is a very fun system mechanic to play with. It's a really, really fun system. Basically, what you have access to is every character has these universal defensive options. One of them is a parry, which blocks all incoming damage, can be broken by a super. The other is a reversal with super armor. So basically, you get super armor, you can tank a hit, and then if you hit the enemy, you get your health back. And it also like stuns them for a second, and so you can like start a combo, like whatever, like you can start an extremely complex or hard to start combo if you land one of those like basically guard counters. Is the easiest comparison from like Elden Ring, when you like tank a hit and then hit someone back because you tanked the initial hit, right? And those are the two basics. And then you can also like modify your other abilities, your other like specials with that same resource. So you're basically constantly trying to figure out how you want to use these set of resources. And that is like one of the ways that like different players of the same character can distinguish themselves from one another. So for example, when I was playing in the beta, I played against another Manon player who used her meter really aggressively. And so basically like would start combat with a combo that was really good, but used up her entire meter right away. And so it would often put her in situations where she would run out of resources halfway through the match, then get stunned, and then I would finish her off because I like managed my meter better. But also she was doing like way better, way more complex combos than I was. And like her execution was like significantly better, and she kept winning. However, I was able to identify like a significant difference in like the way we were approaching using the exact same toolkit, that like made our respective playstyles like extremely distinctive. Where I was like playing something closer to a more traditional grappler, where I was trying to get one or two hits before I used a command grab to like get someone like take control of a situation and like, you know, put on damage. She was way more combo oriented and was using the like hit grab version of Manon's toolkit to like incorporate her throws into the middle of combos. But however, that play style, while more reliable, requires a lot higher resource spend. And like seeing the differences in our playstyles was like actually very cool, and to me kind of sold me on their equivalent of like the V system from Street Fighter V.
Now, it is, because I wasn't totally clear from the preview stuff, is that run around, beat people up in the world thing, I guess, is that their only concession to like more casual story-minded people, or is there also story mode independent of that, where you're like characters hanging out and doing Street Fighter stuff?
Characters hanging out and doing Street Fighter stuff? No, but they have an arcade mode. They have like your traditional like fighting game story arcade mode, where it's a little bit of story, you do a couple of fights, you get the end of the story.
Yeah.
Which is like the classic like fighting game campaign, but not like the fully featured, like this is not a Soul Calibur, where like there is a full main ass plot that you are going through. That is relegated, I believe, to World Tour. Where you were like making your weird little freak, and like
fundamentally
they've
just made the decision not competing with games like Soul Calibur, Mortal Kombat on that terrain.
Yes, like it's not as taken as seriously.
Yeah.
Like World Tour is you are playing as your little like, you know, player character, not like you are not like seeing the epic journey of, you know, Scorpion.
Are they still kind of leaning into the fact that this struck me when I played Street Fighter V, is that like the characters, to a degree, the characters don't age, right? The characters aren't necessarily getting old in the way that, like, you know, we're not really like old man Ken, but there is a sense that they're a different chapter of their lives, right? Like that. Yeah. Ken and Ryu are keenly aware that like they've been doing this for like 30 years.
So, yes. Like there are definitely differences in vibes between like previous incarnations of the same character, which leads me to, let me tell you about one of my favorite games to play with my girlfriend, where I show her a video game or anime character, and she tells me whether or not she thinks that they are cunt. If they're camp, if their vibes are good. And let me just say, Street Fighter 6 was a fucking field day. It was a real joy of going through that entire roster and her being like, cunt, over and over. It's a very good gay little cast, and I like it a lot. And then I showed her Ryu. And she said, why is this man here? And I said, he is the Street Fighter guy. He is the mascot of the series. And she said, why is he the mascot of the series as opposed to all of the interesting people before him? And I was like, you got it right there. Those people have other shit. He doesn't, which makes him a good mascot, which is all to say that, like, I don't know. I think that these characters are at their most, like, archetypal and weird. They've got some good, like, little freak energy, and they are leaning into the little freak energy in a way that I really appreciate. Ryu looks serious and edgy because that's his whole thing. He's Ryu. He's like the serious Street Fighter man. Of course he looks like this. But then like, you know, you have on the other side of coin someone like Juri who is like as weird, freaky, horny as possible. Just like as much of a weird little pervert as you can hope for in a fighting game character. And so it's actually like, yes, it is continuing to like have characters shift in vibe over time. Cammy as well is a slightly off version of the previous one.
It sounds really like I want to play more of the. I want to like. Did you play much of the World Tour? Because you said it was not your bag, really.
It's not my bag. It's just not. I didn't find myself particularly interested in it. I was way more interested in like going to the lab and like testing out this character and then like playing in online matches. Most of which were, let me be clear, really fun. The Games Network, I was playing on Wi-Fi and like the Games Network was actually like very well able to handle that fact, which is impressive to me. It's hard to play fighting games on Wi-Fi, and like Street Fighter 6 like played basically perfectly with the exception of one person who I played in Australia. And
that's your final boss of matchmaking.
No, exactly. And like that match was fine. That match was so fine, in fact, that the other player searched me on Twitter and then tweeted at me afterwards to be like, hey, you really used that like mechanic really well. I'll have to like incorporate that into my toolkit, which, may I add, is one of the best parts of fighting games, is when someone's like, damn, you really rocked my shit. Have a good one. And like they felt the need to track you down to say that. But yeah, the game's like technical performance is surprisingly good.
I intended to try the World Tour stuff to because that would be a little more my bag as not someone that's not particularly like fighting game. Like my favorite part of fighting games was the Tekken 3 era, in which there are 80 characters and they all have a CG ending. Time to spend all summer playing through the arcade mode and seeing every one of these CG endings. Like the Raptor gets one too. The Raptor with the boxing gloves. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank God the budget had enough an ending for them. So that's the and so I'm glad that the game like Mortal Kombat continues that lineage to some degree by taking that part seriously. But I downloaded it on my thank you Capcom for sending code. No one wanted the Xbox code I got, and I was like, all right, so I feel safe taking this and just kind of poking at it, even if it's not a game I'll spend a significant amount of time with. And so I loaded up World Tour, made my character, did like the first area, and then it started explaining actual mechanics to me, and I felt the entire weight of Memorial Day like coalesce on me at 10:45 at night, and like my eyes got heavy. And then I was also encountering a genre that I don't have a lot of context and like experience with, and I tried one match. I was like, Patrick, you didn't even try to do what they asked. Like there's like a number on the screen that's like, do this 10 times.
You didn't even fight in the street.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I can't. No, just shut it down. Like, you're not going to contribute meaningfully to this conversation, and that's okay. You can try and do that next week, buddy. Just shut it down. But hopefully, I do want to sit and try that, because the whole like kind of the gimmick of it is, yes, you are playing a character you have made, and then you're encountering the hero characters as you're exploring, and then you are able to take some of their powers and then like create like a mega character. Like, I like this part, I like that part, and like you were incorporating that into the build of your character. But I didn't get far enough to sort of, does it fall into the bucket of what you're saying of a Mortal Kombat, or like, hey, do you just kind of want like a different structure for how you play this fighting game, and you don't want to sit in the lab, as Ren pointed, like really working on technique and finesse and timing. That's not me. Can I mash button? Cool thing happen, and then I get rewarded. Like, that's what I'm here for. Which is basically treating a fighting game like an action game, which is or more akin to a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta,
character action game. Yeah.
Yes. There are fighting moves, but that's just you don't have to fully engage with that to be successful. Playing online, smashing the buttons, you're not going to get anywhere. And like, that's fine. I'm not asking it to be anything but that. And so it's just not clear to me, is that World Tour, who is it for? And I think that's something that, Ren has articulated, kind of struggling, like, okay, well, doesn't seem like it's for me. And then it's a question of, well, then is it for me? And I hopefully I can answer that, by next week, because I'd love an opportunity, because it looks gorgeous. Like, I mean, it's so fun to look at, and it's just a question of, well, is this actually going to be worth my time, or is the barrier of even what it's asking me out of the world tour mode going to be engage with this mechanically to a degree that is beyond even what I want to do, and I don't know yet.
I wanted to get some time with it too, but yeah, it's been a lot going on, and I spent the weekend. You know how when a pet curls into a tiny little ball and puts its nose under its tail? That was me this weekend. Basically, that was how I went through the weekend.
Yeah.
But I did make a little bit of time to play around with Star Trek Resurgence.
Resurgence.
This is from the a bunch of so it's not Telltale.
It's X,
but it is ex Telltale people making a very Telltale style game, because Telltale is making games. I think earlier this year delayed The Wolf Among Us 2 into early next year.
And
they're building that link.
And that also isn't Deck 9 making an Expanse game under the publisher
Telltale
name of
brand.
Telltale.
That comes out soon. You know, I think that comes out in
Wait a second,
August.
wasn't Deck 9 the one that had the layoffs last week that a ton of people were let go?
Oh shit! Was it?
I mean, that game's done though. So, but that might be like the Expanse game is happening. That game is
It's disappointing. They're continuing the ritual of game done. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah, they had major layoffs.
Yeah, and presumably they're building the next
damn.
Life is Strange. So I don't know. Maybe they expanded to. I don't know. Either way, that's unfortunate. But they are making that Expanse game. So Star Trek.
Yeah, so Star Trek, and so here's the thing that. Here's the most disappointing thing about it. I will just get this we'll just talk about this up front. Patrick, do you remember how fucking good Telltale Batman was and how fucking trash its performance was?
Yes. In fact, I feel like part of that, I never got to I know people consider, there were 2 seasons of the Batman Telltale game, right? And the second season is the one I didn't play. And that is where like the all-time Joker arc, I think, happens. Like people have said, it has an excellent interpretation of that character. But yes, I remember that. Telltale games always had performance issues, but they were never as. I feel like Batman encapsulated the extreme, like the high end of quality of what was possible out of this style of game, but also all the things that were problematic with Telltale's proprietary engine stuff.
Well, like as far as that goes, nothing has changed as far as I can tell. So I've been playing it on Xbox. Performance is really, really bad in ways that are tough to completely set aside. Like there is some sort of audio glitch that is causing it to make a little snapping sound. Usually when someone begins to speak, like whenever someone, like it's not constant, but it's like whenever a new sound effect or a new dialogue line cuts in, you get a little like electronic, like snapping sound. The sort of things you get on like a recording that has a sample rate conflict or something. Just a weird little glitch. And it could be that's just like interacting poorly with my AV receiver or something, or maybe something, but like no other game does this, right? Like the 360, not the 360, the Xbox like smooths this stuff out for the most part across other games, but here I'm getting just like constant audio glitches on that. It is framey, which is not the biggest issue for a game this style, but like it is an issue for, does this feel like a good world to move around in, right? Like you're walking down the halls of the spaceship. Mm-hmm. Does it feel nice to walk down the halls of the spaceship? Not really. But in some ways, what could be more Star Trek than like seeing a bit of the plaster, on the walls and a little bit of the wires holding the spaceships. And beyond that, you have a really well executed Star Trek game. Like I think to an extent, the vibe I get from it right now is, what if you had a Mass Effect game where you never like did any of the bullshit, go down on the planet and shoot people? It's just all like vibing with the crew and talking through stuff. And it delivers on that pretty well. It's like so far the thing I haven't, so you're getting an all new like cast of characters. To contextualize it looks to me like it is taking place in the wake of the Deep Space Nine series. The character you're introduced to was like decorated for valor at the end of the Dominion War, which is the like huge galactic conflict that like gives shape to most of DS9 as a series. You are now being moved off to this like special research vessel, and you are coming in to replace a bunch of dead crewmen. You're part of a wave of replacements because something went wrong with their last mission, their last experiment. It's a research vessel. Sometimes shit happens, but there is kind of this vibe of, and I kind of dig this for a Star Trek story, because Discovery blew this, right? Sorry, I'm just going to start talking about like Star Trek stuff real quick. Are you all familiar with the various discourses around like the new wave of Star Treks and like particularly Star Trek Discovery?
I've heard it's bad.
Discovery
I
bad.
got worse. I heard it started all right, had promise, went worse. Now everyone is on the Brave New Worlds train.
Strange
also,
New Worlds. But
Strange New
New
Worlds.
Worlds is great. Picard, also bad.
Got good though.
Really?
The word on that is like the last season of Picard is like, this is
If you want,
up here.
the way it was, I am not connected to Star Trek at all. But like when I was watching my Star Trek nerd friends talk about, it, I was like, well, is it good? What is your definition of good if what you are getting is a giant spoon of fan service and you just going, it's going all over my face and dribbling down?
Sometimes dinner is a tablespoon of peanut butter.
And that is 100. But like, it's one of those things. Like, I've heard it's better than the first two seasons, and you can just skip the first two seasons and just jump straight into a direct sequel to where you last were with those characters, or read a Wikipedia entry. Like, it's just not worth wasting your time with the first two seasons, and then just getting a heaping pile of fan service all over you.
So the thing about Discovery is it has good moments and bad moments. Generally, I guess it's a bad show, but the thing is, it keeps reinventing itself. It like is a show that. It never settles down. It's always like, we are going to make the most wild swings imaginable for this thing, and it's never going to settle down into the kind of like teamwork procedural that your typical Star Trek show does. But Discovery opens with this really cool setup, which is that like a disgraced Starfleet officer is given a second chance aboard this like effectively a flying Area 51 type spaceship, and the ship has bad vibes. Like, bad things are happening there. Like it's kind of like this mission feels a little bit cursed. It feels like we're not being told things. Where it goes with that concept is ridiculous and like has some of the most disappointing twists you could possibly imagine. Wastes some incredible cast members. That is the story of Discovery, is like cool setup and then face planting right and left. Here, this feels a bit more like what I wanted Discovery to be, which is more like, it's not like, I'm sure there will be twists, but at this stage, fairly early in this mission, it's more that the shit, like, it does feel like things are being held back, that you don't know the full story, and that there is like a heavy sense of gloom about the ship. But it's the difference between like where Discovery's answers for why it would feel this way are kind of inherently ridiculous. Resurgence feels a bit more like, what's the way to put it? You're joining a crew that's just been really unlucky, and the business and the work they do is really hard and it's really dangerous, and everyone is kind of like having doubts about, are we capable of doing this? Like, is this ship safe? Does Starfleet care about like the losses we just suffered? And you're sort of stepping into that as a new crewman and trying to both get in with a crew that's been like bonded by shared trauma. It was pretty tight knit, but then also try to move on and address the coming crises. The vibe's pretty good, and I think if you're, I think something that can be tricky with these things is there's a period of buy-in it takes to really like start liking a crew in Star Trek, right? Like, I think the vibe for me here is that it is a bit more like early seasons of like Next Generation or something, which is that like it doesn't totally feel gelled, and I'm not totally sure about like all these performances and all these ideas for a character. There is a little bit of like discount Star Trek to all of this, but like Star Trek in its origins is a discount show. It's a syndicated sci-fi TV show that's kind of in the DNA. And so in a weird way, it does feel very authentically Star Trek, even as you're saying like, man, this is like definitely a cut below a lot of video games. It's like perfectly in the envelope for where like a Star Trek product should land, traditionally. So like I'm digging it, and there's I think the thing you're gonna have to put up with is that it's a Telltale game. There's a lot of things where it's like, move the cursor over the thing, press the button, watch your character like pick up the thing, look at it, use it. It's a lot of little mini games, but shooting the shit with your crew, like exploring the world, it's pretty cool. I think if you are someone who like for me, it's. Do you like Star Trek? I don't mean you have to love it. You don't have to be like a total like Trekkie. But do you like Star Trek in general? Are you someone who's like, oh, like I hear there's a cool Star Trek thing on, I will watch it. I think it kind of works. And I think in some ways the property itself kind of conditions you to put up with some of the rough edges around this thing. But those edges are rough and like they don't go away.
It seems like it's on every platform. I was kind of poking around. It's, continuing, absent Tears of the Kingdom, a real laundry list of games that come out of the gate just a little rough. Does sound like a lot of people are having these audio issues that you're talking about, so I don't think it's your actual audio setup. It sounds like there is like repeat lines and stuttering. There's, depending on your platform, there's a different audio issue. So whatever is happening, there's the audio in general is a problem on this. But that does seem like the kind of thing that is not fundamentally flawed. And if you find this interesting, probably give it a couple of weeks for that first pass to come through.
And also, just what's your tolerance for teeth? These characters are very toothy when they talk. Ooh, and I'm not sure they actually nailed what mouths should look like.
Sorry. I'm going to ask you to roll it back. When you say your tolerance for teeth, do you mean that like bad things happen to teeth in this game? Or are you trying to suggest to me that the teeth are so troubling you felt the need to ask what my tooth tolerance was?
Hey, it's the latter.
Do you have any photos of these chompers?
I don't. Let me see if there's anything.
Do you have any mastication
You kind of
gifs?
need to see it in motion. Like if you pull up like some trailers. Mastication videos? No, I don't. I don't have any mastication videos. But like it is a thing where I was like, they gave all these characters teeth, correct amount of teeth, and they've like modeled those mouths like, and they were like, that's a human mouth.
Okay.
But then you see it in ways, and you're just like, and yet somehow it's a maw.
Right. So what? Okay, I'm pulling up the video right now.
That way.
Would you say that it's like better or worse than the Silent 2 hand animated cutscenes?
I feel like
which swing in and out of like incredible realism and David Lynch directed this.
Yeah, I think it's a little worse, but then it becomes so commonplace you do start to tune it out. But like when the characters are rah, 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 talk, there's just a lot of like,
okay, that's a lot of
this just ain't quite right.
Come on, characters, open your little mouths.
Teeth.
Yeah, it was like this character, a bunch of old friends get like reunite, and they're all smiling at each other, and I'm like, no, we could
don't do that.
Could do less of this, thank you. Anyway,
God,
my point is like Star Trek Resurgence. I think like again, if you like Star Trek, and in general, you're like, I like to think about Star Trek and spend time in that world. I think it's really cool. I'm glad it's around. I wish it were more like I wish I weren't back at where I was with like the Batman Telltale games, which is on the one hand I'm totally absorbed, and on the other hand I'm constantly like having to overcome friction to play with it.
Right.
We will, we'll close off our game segment for now. I know that we had news about Zaum over this weekend that People Make Games released a documentary about it.
We can get around to that.
Yeah.
We'll get around to it.
We'll watch some. We'll run some tape.
Yeah.
We'll watch the highlights, and maybe we'll talk about. Hey, wait, but when will we talk about it? Well, more on that after the break. And we're back. So, this is the final episode of Waypoint Radio, and Waypoint is shutting down effective tomorrow. And our plan
Really
was that
today. We're not doing anything.
Well, effectively, we the labor force of Waypoint, we ain't doing shit except being fired. But like,
Yeah.
But in
And
terms
who
of,
knows? Maybe we'll get to experience the joy of watching this brand get resurrected, like in the future.
that would be
I
so
am of the
funny.
mind that I want it desperately to happen. I desperately
just try it.
So funny.
Just fucking
because it would be so funny.
Yeah, it would.
the Vice
Anyway.
Live team is rebooting Waypoint.
Whoever poor soul. I mean,
Yeah.
like on one hand, I think it'd be very funny. On the other, if some young writer is like, hey, we're gonna hire a couple of small people, like turn Waypoint into a guides and SEO factory. Like, I'm not. Hey, kid, take the money. Like, the brand's not that important to me, but I want them to do it at some point.
But like, our plan when we first found out we were being laid off was like, this was kind of the end. This was not a work. This was not a like we weren't like trying to trick you or like this is gonna build hype. The plan was genuinely like this is probably the end of the road.
I thought we were done until I got a Sunday DM from Rob Zachney saying, "Can we have a business call soon? Or can we chat soon about some business?" And this was like a couple of weeks ago now.
Mhm.
But it was like well into the I guess I have to look for a new job process. So like I will say that, like, again, this is not a work by like any means.
And I think a big part of it, and there's going to be another podcast on another feed where you're going to hear Cloud and Patrick and I talk a bit more about like how this all unfolded. But the big thing is, like, especially in the wake of having something you worked on for like 5-6 years, the thought of doing it all over again, starting over, even though in some ways you're not, because like you have your audience, you have people who are like, they're on day one being like, you guys should start a Patreon. If you're there, I'm there day one. It still feels like you are starting from zero and you're
It's
having
daunting.
to rebuild again.
Yeah, especially from like a risk calculus point of view on, like this podcast spans the spectrum on where people can be at different points in their lives with different like layers of like what happens at different stages. And like, so that also makes it more complicated. Like, it's a different equation where like, well, fuck it. Let's see what happens. Like, it's just, everyone has different expectations for their life and responsibilities, and the idea of just flip the switch on the Patreon and like things will keep going. It's like,
Well, and what
maybe.
promises can we make? Because here's the thing, like, if we did that, there would be a lot of like, what is this new thing we are starting up? There's a lot of questions we'd have to answer right away. There's a thing we are selling, questions that we weren't, and kind of to an extent still aren't fully ready to answer. Because the example, something I return to a lot, like, it's become a joke on this podcast, but Waypoint 101, historically, going back years, is kind of an example of like a side project that just never quite gets off the ground because it never fits into the way our lives are constructed, the way we do our work, the way we live our lives, the way we plan. And so is there a risk that like us starting from zero risks becoming like Waypoint 101 writ large, because like in the heat of the moment we were like, and we're taking it to Patreon and nothing's going to change. We're going to live forever. And then, 3 months later, like, boy, did we miscalculate and fuck up. But the thing that did change things pretty rapidly was that people reached out to us with some like power in the scenario to let us take the Waypoint Plus like subscription business out of the company. The platform that people have been paying into for a while, Memberful, which is a like sort of team within the larger Patreon company, we would be able to take that out and stand up a new thing around that using the existing business, the existing subscriber base. And that isn't starting from zero. That's a ton of the heavy lifting having already been done. There is, to an extent, a baseline that you can sort of make plans around. And additionally, because Waypoint Plus had already sort of defined what it is we were doing, what it is we are selling, kind of made it easier to say, well, what is this new thing? Well, for now, it's a continuation of Waypoint Plus. There's going to be some changes to, what we were doing like when we were full time at Waypoint, and we'll get into what those are. But for the most part, what we are doing, at least for the next few months, is like following through on what Waypoint Plus was, particularly for, and this is key, if you have an annual sub, you're still subbed in. We're going to deliver on what you thought you were buying if you were one of those folks who bought into next year. We are going to continue doing Waypoint Plus stuff. We will.
We should be clear, in terms of how that we do not get that money, right? Like that.
Right.
That is money that was paid out, went to Vice, but as part of this, what we feel is like an obligation, for folks that are that. We didn't know that was going to happen. You didn't know that was going to happen, and so. And just like with all transparency, it's not the majority of how this is run. And so it is a sort of like an overhead that we can just promise, if that's where you're at and you're comfortable and you don't want to change anything about how, you're engaging with us and, and what you're subscribing to, we're going to keep going. And we're going to honor that obligation under the, I think, fairly reasonable assumption from how we've looked at the numbers. The rest of the stuff allows us to make that calculus and not overcomplicate this switch.
Now, some people already figured out this is probably happening because so it turns out when you create a Stripe account, you have to once you hook the things into the business, you make it go, you have to tell people what is charging them.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be Waypoint Plus charging them anymore.
So when you first started this Stripe account, I remember originally the account name was just Twitter. Did you actually change that, or
no? This is a level below that,
okay.
Where it is how do you want what is the entity charging people's credit cards?
Right. Okay.
And I didn't want to use our company name.
Right.
Because I'm like that. I'm trying to have fly a little bit below the radar, and that's not it's a fun Easter egg. Legitimately, we wanted our LLC name to be different than the company, just for a little bit of privacy reasons, and also because we needed to stand up an LLC before we were ready to have a conversation about what the brand was going to be called.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point is, so we had to put in Stripe what the company is. And so the minute we started being hey, people just stop canceling their memberful subs. Just don't worry about it. Just let it ride. A lot of people, and I probably should have anticipated that it would actually be a surprisingly large number of people.
Wait, we didn't predict this?
No.
Not to this extent. I didn't think it would be a handbrake turn where I go in the back end and you'd see up to the moment where Kato and I are streaming motorsports and we do the little bit at the end of the podcast last week, suddenly would have been a pretty steady trickle of cancellations and auto renewal holds turned into people signing up, enabling auto renewal.
I want to put people. I think I'll a lot of this. I got this response to a tweet that I did of the kind of the tweet the teasing we've been doing.
Yeah.
And it's this vibe of people sneaking in with the tweet is creeping back in with some hope in my step, and I think that's a little bit of what we were getting. On purpose, right? It's difficult to be making all these plans, trying to organize kind of a structured launch while also waiting for different legal procedures to work themselves out. In terms of formalizing exactly what this is, saying this is ours, happened fairly recently in the grand scheme of things.
A long time after it was floated.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. We were very fortunate to have this period where we've still been employed, but not necessarily working full time on day-to-day Waypoint stuff. And
turns out it takes about a month to stand up a company.
yeah, with a lot of things still unclear.
Yeah, not even fully done yet.
But the table is built enough that we can feel confident that we have an offering and a way of getting things to people. We got enough built that we can say that's a business.
There's
There's a
a-
lowercase b, and then we're working on turning it into an uppercase b.
There's a functional table. You can put
Yeah.
things on the table doesn't break.
And that table is called Remap.
Woo!
Yeah.
Dead silence from Ren. Also, not as bad as Ren's reaction in the chat. Let me scroll up to this.
Well, hold on.
Let me
What did I say?
so I'm going to put a DM on blast here.
Okay,
Because
that's
it was real good.
I'm trying to find it
Wait,
too.
so what's the thought behind Remap? I'm fascinated to know. Ren's
a lot.
fascinated to know.
There's a lot implied in that. There's a lot of
What's the thought? I'm sure it's
Oh, that's
fascinating.
Oh, that's interesting. That energy is like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
Wow, that's wild.
Damn, cool name.
I didn't know
So-
that.
Listen, it's growing on me. It's growing on me. It's got the alliteration.
Syrup radio.
I mean, I'll be like, I think I was straight with you, Ren. Like, a huge part of it is when we talk about like naming things is hard. This is a commonplace. It's true. So it was true when Waypoint was started. It's true now, but it sure helped that like Remap and Remap Radio were things that were way easier for us to like build around than a lot of other choices that we talked about and that we maybe liked more at first blush. But Remap was something that we could say again because we're in compressed time frame. We could just sort of say we could just do that. That was Patrick's decision. Like that's where Patrick was like sold. Like wait, it's like we can spend a few more days debating this and trying to figure out what we can grab, or we could just like pull the trigger now. Let's do that.
The fucking sleuths over at the Discord. This is we're recording, by the way, on Tuesday. Somebody's already been like, "There's a Remap Twitter that was."
Yeah, I mean it's not hard.
like,
It's not hard to
last
start
week.
doing connecting the dots on that stuff. Yeah, is this where we? Okay, one last time. I'm gonna open up the app. I'm gonna see if I've got one, and if I don't, Kato, we're just gonna do.
Oh no, I got
What
one.
we
We got
do-
one. We got one.
You got a blue sky?
Rob got one. Rob passed me
Rob
one.
got one. All right.
We have a blue
Okay.
sky.
Otherwise, I was
registered
gonna
our
say
blue
this.
sky.
Wait, do you have a blue sky invite now?
I'm looking to see if it had been 0 invite codes. Okay. Otherwise, I was gonna ask for it here. That was
Well,
the play.
No,
Looks like-
a
looks like
comrade
the
reached out and was like, "Do you want one?" And I was like, "Yes, but not for me." And they were like, "Interesting."
Well, now Rob needs one.
Now I need one.
Can't wait
Help,
to be
I'm starting a
speaking of-
business.
I'm not sure you need one, but it'd be nice to have one.
I need one the way I need that microphone, Patrick.
Oh my God.
I need
Don't
another social
conflate those
network
two.
to scroll through.
But yeah, I think I think Remap's going to sound weird in the mouth, and it's going to sound weird on the ears. For a little
I find
bit.
it most weird to type. Like
Yeah,
I don't like
Really?
when I type Remap Radio, the letters just
I mean, let me
Look
try
weird.
it.
to me.
M-A-F.
Oh, but it's great on a
Yeah.
Dvorak keyboard.
No,
it's-
I
this
don't
is
think,
I don't-
it's tough on a
Okay, so I
traditional
don't
layout.
hold on. So I don't mean the physical act of typing it. I mean seeing the words
Yeah.
all
No,
lowercase strung together.
Yeah.
I do
There's
have a
just-
problem with the letter P. I often hit O.
Mm.
So I'm gonna type out Remo. I even sometimes go as far as
Sorry,
I.
Remo?
Remao.
Welcome to Remo Radio. It's the continuation of the Spirit of Idle Thumbs, or at least part of it.
So Waypoint has the Y swoops into the left and then the P it
Yeah,
looks
it's got a
like the
natural
lettering
camel
is
case.
pretty.
Yeah.
A natural inverted camel case.
And when I look at Remap
think
Radio,
we-
like
yeah.
all lowercase, it's I don't
think we can
it's
go single. There has to be a space there.
There has
That's why
to
I
be a
almost
space.
thought about this.
No,
like the dash.
we need a real space because otherwise it's Remap Radio.
Rema.
And no one wants Remap Radio.
Rema Radio. Rema Radio.
Yeah, I don't
It's
think that
Remap.
Remap
It's
Radio.
we already
It's Remap
did.
Radio. Yeah.
Well, I could go through and change it. I'm sure nobody cares. Nobody's
no,
watching
no,
Remap
no. The mouse
Dash
sounds
Radio.
are fine. The mouse
Also,
sounds are
I
fine.
think it's harder to type though. Like
It's
that's the
harder
thing,
to-
is
it's
I don't
harder
wanna be
to
telling
plug.
people go to remap-radio.com. No, we're not
Just
doing that.
reapradio.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That website should be up. Oh, I should
Wonderful.
put
It's a
that on
fine
the
name.
list.
well, and also, I mean, genuinely, the one thing we
It's
like,
a convenient name.
and we did like that it was at least a little bit. Yeah, like you can draw lines between that and Waypoint.
Yeah,
That there's some like thematic connective tissue there.
We're still in the
I wanna be
area
clear,
of mapping and wayfinding. Things that
I didn't say. Oh, sorry, Kato.
no, go ahead.
No. I think Ren, you were clarifying though.
I want to clarify. I
You were
didn't say
fascinated
this
to
to
know.
Rob, but legitimately by the end of that conversation, I was sold. Like when you explained the reasons, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Good. I've internalized that information. I think that this was the right call. I would much rather have a name that works than spend the next like week trying to figure out a name for a project that we can't do.
Ren knows some of them. I don't think we'll tell you. Like, we're not going to do the "here's what this could have been called" thing because I'm not emotionally ready to have people
We're
be
just
like,
getting
"Oh, here's
here
what you
on
should have
Remap."
called it."
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, not ready for that conversation.
Yeah,
I am-
if we're lucky to be here a year from now, we'll sit and we'll tell you over a beer the other.
it's
ones
like
we
showing
were
up.
working
Like
through.
it's like you show up to your friend's house and you got like a new car, and they're like, "Oh, I heard that one's like a real piece of shit." Like, I heard that's like got like isn't there a
that?
recall on that?
Wait,
Well, okay.
who said that?
Doing this to you?
Wait, Rob. Yeah, I'm with Patrick here. Who's doing this?
It's like
to you?
when has this situation ever like maybe some people don't like the color
If there's
in the
a-
kind of way they're like, oh, the baby's so cute, oh my god, but like as people go like, oh, that car, I've heard it's a real piece of shit.
Well, that's an
Like,
extreme example, but like, it's more like,
I would- hold on.
like,
If
why didn't you go
I-
with why didn't you go with the Subaru, for instance? And it's like secretly, it's because the Subaru's better, and so why didn't you go with the better car?
But when Rob said that there was like, oh, there was a recall on that card, I would want to know if I had accidentally bought a car that there was a manufacturer's recall on.
Kato, every car has recalls on it.
What?
There's recalls and there's recalls. There's degrees of recall.
Is this Rob's version of the food and how long it's out? I
How
gotta send
much
the
of a
car back
recall
for
is
that.
it?
The brakes. I mean, what if I'm just keep going?
A lot of recall notices are just like, hey, next time you're in for regular service, like just have them look at this thing. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, like one thing that should be like this feed is dying. All the episodes will stay up for some measure of time. Like it is not as though our jobs are an extinction event, but the like existing content of Waypoint, the internet atrophies. Like stuff goes away, isn't maintained. We are not here to be stewards of it and advocate for it. But there is nothing to suggest to us that any of this will be disappearing. I know there are archival efforts that folks are going through in the community to make sure this stuff is available, and we appreciate that greatly. That people care enough to want to keep all of that rambling, as a historical document. But we didn't get the name right. Like that was, and I think pretty understandably, like whether they want to do something with it or you still run ads on old content that people may want to watch. In the future, we didn't get that as part of the process, and so that was part of why we, have Remap both from a clean break and also you can't have it. So there's your clean break. But we have to spin up new podcast feeds, new Twitch accounts, new social accounts, and we will communicate the ways that you can get access to that in as many ways as that we can to you, but. I can't feed it. I can't transfer you listening to this onto that feed.
You
The
just
people who
need
are
to keep
subscribed.
Remap Radio in your head because that
Yep.
is going to be the homepage. Remapradio.com.
.net.
You're gonna find us on Twitter
.street.
at Remap Radio. You're gonna find us on Twitch at Remap Radio. Remap Radio, pretty much everywhere is gonna be us. And when you go into your podcast app and you look for Remap Radio, there we shall also be.
Come
There-
find
there-
us.
There should be something there by the time you're listening to this.
Yeah, when you're listening to this, there should be a day zero, kind of an after dark vibe where it was the same day that it was the day after we had signed the legal paperwork, and then the day or no, the day we signed the legal paperwork, but the day after we decided on the name. So it was sort of like this period of real anxiety, but also kind of excitement at what could be and trying to situate ourselves there. And then there will also be a very short, like, pilot podcast that reintroduces ourselves, and but don't expect no 5-star run times on that one. The After Dark is a long one, but there'll be a pilot, and then we'll starting next week we'll get into the swing of doing regular podcasts. Not 2 of them though.
Yeah,
at least the gaming one.
Patrick has finally successfully killed
The evil is defeated.
The evil I created has been defeated by losing my job.
So I think another part of this was also like in terms of the crossroads we were all at and what this was going to be. So in the wake of, as Waypoint was sort of winding down, we were all sort of in a different place with our relationship to this work and where we wanted our careers to go from here. And I think you sort of hear on the day we were all sort of processing it, even that, like, Ren, you were in a different place with regards to working in media than we were. And your ambitions are pointing in a different direction. But you're not like disappearing in a puff of smoke.
No.
But
No, I like doing this.
Smoke bomb.
I like
Did you
doing
just drop
this.
a
and I
smoke bomb?
Are you
Rob?
okay?
Like,
I think
what
Rob-
happened?
Did you just
Something
jingle some
happened
keys
over
at me?
Oh, is the condenser mic getting this? You know what wouldn't get that? The RE20.
You didn't have to, but I think, frankly, I think the velocity at which you dropped that pen or whatever it is, I think would have been picked up by
Yeah.
just about anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the glass mat for my
Anyway,
chair.
sorry. Let's
Glass
okay. Ren,
mat?
Glass mat?
If you roller chairs are horrible on carpets, so you need something.
Oh. Glass?
Sorry. That was a glass. Sorry, you're just like hitting me with a cognitive flashbang. Can you like elaborate on this?
They make little like tempered glass like placemats you can put an office chair on
I've
for going
seen
over carpet.
these.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no, I have seen
It's
these. I
nice.
remember that my grandfather had one. I didn't know what the fuck it was. I
was-
now understand.
Is it the one I'm thinking of is like plastic.
Well,
I was
this is
thinking plastic,
tempered
too.
glass.
So it's like rigid. Like a little
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess that makes sense because the weight is evenly distributed because it's a wide enough piece of glass.
They
Sure.
do make ones that are like textured and have a very thin weave over them, so it's like
Uh-huh.
tempered glass, but then there's like a ballistic nylon cover that you're
Uh-huh.
sort of rolling around on.
Sure.
That MK has that's very, very good.
Mhm.
But I think we're getting off the point here,
We are getting off the point.
which was that
Which-
Ren is not being loaded into a cannon and shot into the sun, nor is Ren deploying a smoke bomb and disappearing immediately. But like we are moving in different directions over time.
Yeah. Do we want to like explain like what that looks like? Is like me like sticking on for like the next few months.
However
and
you
then
want to like, yeah, I mean, like, however you want to talk about, like, do you want to talk about like what it is, like, without getting into specifics, do you want to talk about like where you see things
When's
going?
this coming
over the
out?
next-
Thursday.
Thursday.
It's coming out Thursday night after we've announced
Let's just
after
let-
the stream.
Yeah, but I think we can assume that like you can't be totally frank about everything, but like just
I can
in
be
terms
frank.
of career direction.
Yeah. I am currently working, or I'm going to be working at a indie studio as lead designer on a game that is like currently searching for a publisher. And I'm very excited to be doing so. It's like an insanely cool project that I could not say no to. And like I am overjoyed to be on it. And like what that means is that like for the next few months I will be splitting time between, a game looking for a publisher and doing stuff for Remap. And eventually once that goes into full-time development, or like once the next few months are up, I will probably transition into like I believe the plan is for us to have a rotating guest chair eventually. And like I will be one of the people who slots into that rotating guest chair from time to time. But yeah, I will be a host for the next few months and then switch to a guesting alumna.
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 Like, yeah, you're graduating. We're back on theme. We're just
Bringing the metaphor
making it
full
around.
circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think around the time when that is happening, like we will know a lot more about what Remap will ultimately be, in terms of like what commitment level it can sustain. I think part of this, like, again, going back to the whole, like, this is not, it's not a work, it's not a bit. Like, there's a lot of things that are still being figured out. We don't know what this thing looks like. We don't know how much will go into running it. We don't know how successful it will be. So, like, part of it is, like, for the next few months, this thing takes the shape of Waypoint Plus, and then, you know, beyond that, it probably begins to turn into like something else. It begins to be calibrated to the way it's sort of shaping up and like what we all see as our availability for it moving forward and where it fits into our lives. So like you know, there will be changes down the line, you know, in terms of what this is. But for now, like, we're going to be doing sort of what you come to expect via Waypoint Plus. So I believe I told y'all that I felt like maybe Born Legacy would be a great movie to pick up from Arrival. And I didn't know that I think if I'd known for sure that I was committing myself to that and I picked a different movie, I might have been like, hey, let's do Tree of Life. But it's out there in the world. I think we need to see Born Legacy.
It's
agree.
okay. Patrick
Quick
will
question.
pick Tree of Life.
Pardon?
It's okay. Patrick will pick Tree of Life.
Yeah, Patrick, the minute we talked about Tree of
Famously
Life.
Patrick movie pick, yeah.
And I'm sure we'll all get the most out of Born Legacy because we all saw the Bourne trilogy, right? We all know the Jason Bourne movies.
No, that was the whole bit, was that it'd be fun to watch it and having no context.
no
Wait, Ren and I are
context.
the only people who've seen the Bourne movies?
Yeah.
Damn right we
talked
are.
about this.
Yeah, that was
This
the whole
is
thing,
part of
Rob.
the conversation
This was the
that
whole
happened
thing,
at the end
Rob.
of my turn.
I didn't realize that you'd seen,
This is
you
why I
didn't see any of them, Patrick.
This is why I suggest we did a This is why I suggest we did a mini series of all of them because they haven't seen it.
No, but it's so much funnier to just jump into that one.
It'll be a good bit.
Yeah, it's a good bit.
I think it's a good bit. We're all about bits.
All right,
here
well,
at Remap
we're just going to
Radio.
dive in. So Ren and I are going to introduce the gang to Bourne Legacy, the spin-off of the Bourne trilogy, and we will see how that plays. So that's
Who knows? Maybe next. Maybe the next turn of the wheel will just be. We'll go back. We'll figure it out. We'll do it.
the Bourne identity.
We'll do it AMCA style, right? Watch Revenge of the Sith, then watch the Clone Wars.
Bro, Rob. I got to drop something on you.
Oh my God.
Excuse me?
Sorry, let me click on this.
The Bears are coming to
Oh my
Fortnite.
god.
Drop in on the all-new Bears theme map with island code 268524615614. They used Fortnite Creative to build like
Oh my God.
downtown in Soldier Field. Like Rob,
Oh my God.
Rob, where are we dropping?
Oh my God. Wait.
Right there,
This is what
buddy.
we're
Wait,
doing
is this
on
live now?
Friday.
Is this our stream on Friday?
This is our
is
Friday
our
stream.
stream on
This has to be our Friday stream.
This is our stream on Friday.
We're playing Fortnite on the Bears map.
Look at this.
Twitch.tv/Remap Radio.
Look,
Twitch.tv/Remap
this is
Radio.
incredible.
Is there anything more just like fated in the world? Like this had to happen this
No.
way, right? This had to be timed just like this.
Oh my gosh.
It's so beautiful.
Well, because I was upset. Hopefully, this means that I can purchase the outfit. Like, because we missed the boat when they did all of the jerseys
Right.
At the start of the season last fall, and they took them down, so we couldn't get them. So hopefully that can.
I'll bet the
Anyway,
NFL sells jerseys in Fortnite again.
Yeah.
I'll bet, I have a feeling.
I know, but I want it now. I want to wear it when we do the stream, as opposed to waiting for the fall. When I'll just purchase it then. But this is incredible. Well, great. We figured out what we're doing. What we're doing on Friday.
Nice work, team.
So yeah, look forward to that. We'll have more to say and all that soon. There's a lot of blanks for us to fill in. But we talked through a lot of that on the Day Zero podcast, and the Day One podcast will walk you through sort of like how the structure of everything is changing in terms of the cost of the membership and how we're like it's a real business. It'll be as big or as small as you, the audience, dictates. The thing that I've always said is y'all always show up, and you've been shouting from the rooftop since all this happened that find some way, big or small, to keep some of this energy together going forward. And now is our chance to figure out what is the shape of that and what is the size of it, and you'll help us figure that out, and then we'll see how it fits in our lives, and we will go from there.
We here at Waypoint are big trend chasers. The current trends right now is that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a big game. So what if we added tears to our kingdom?
Oh my God, Rob, start asking questions.
I'm gonna come to Prospect Heights and kill you with a big rock.
I'll just make a little noise like
I'm gonna conk you.
You see what they've been doing, those Koroks?
Okay. What's one piece of media you wish you could have done a deep dive on, a la Kingdom Hearts and Lore Reasons or Evangelion in Waypoints, but never got around to doing? Fuck FGCH forever.
what?
Zach from Salem.
Fuck
Zach.
capitalism. Go home.
Capitalism.
Go home.
What is capitalism?
Maybe the community's come up with a new acronym we're not aware
I
of.
think fuck capitalism is like something you swear when you join the Banana Republic.
Stupid.
Fuck capitalism, college humor.
So, piece of media.
Piece of media. One that I would, I've said this many times. I am always delighted when, because I've seen most from this point, when there is a horror series in which the number can hit 10, or the other way of putting it is when they go to space, because that's like what every horror franchise does at some point is they run out of premises. It's like, I don't know, go to space. Leprechaun did it, Jason did it. I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street didn't do it. Hellraiser did it. It's Critters just started there and it goes back and forth. But a lot of them do that.
Freddy never went to space?
No, never got that goofy.
Damn.
Freddy's like a little more consistent quality-wise than some of the others. I mean, like, arguably, the first one is an all-time classic, but I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors is an excellent movie. That's one of Frank Darabont's early ones. Anyway, I think it would be delightful at one point to pick one of those. Nightmare on Elm Street is not a bad one because there's more narrative hooks than in many of these, and to watch all of them. Like, let's do Nightmare on Elm Street 1 all the way through New Nightmare, which is another all-time classic. Like that's right before Scream comes out and sort of sets up Wes Craven's like meta like horror arc, and Freddy vs. Jason. Well, that movie's got a slur in it that doesn't work so well these days, but it's definitely part of what they did back then of comedy films of that era. But something like that where I want to walk this crew through, like, come into the sludge with me.
Yeah.
Let's watch Nightmare on Elm Street 6 and like see what happens.
Yes.
So that's for me. That's the one that has gotten away, or maybe we'll get a chance to do something like that, in the future. But that is one of those, is like, come with me, much like Pennywise and It. Like, we don't float down here, but this is where we are.
Wait, shit, Hellraiser went to space?
Yeah, in fact, one of the spaceships turns into the cube. Like, I think that's where they locked Pinhead up in the future.
Oh my god. That's
and I believe that one is split future past. It is both a
space
prologue for like the original creator of the box. And then you get a space box. I'll link you a clip where the spaceship turns into the cube. It's
amazing.
I think that might be what actually summons Pinhead, or like unlocks him from his jail.
Right.
Is when the spaceship
turns into the
lament configuration. Anyway, what else? What are other people's Pride and Prejudice lore reasons?
God. We'd been throwing this around. It was like an almost too easy layup for a continuation of what lore reasons could do, because of how ridiculous the series is. It's Metal Gear. It's actually going through all of them and getting that fucking lore timelines spat out, which would be great.
That would have been incredible.
I've done like most of the mainline ones, but there's a bunch of side ones that we would have to look into. Honestly,
Peace Walker, Ren's favorite, is one I've never played. Yeah.
Here's the thing, I was like thinking about doing the Metal Gear series after I finished Silent Hill on my personal channel. Like once I finish Silent Hill 4, because I'm only doing the mainline Silent Hills. I'm not doing that to myself. Well, I guess I could make myself do some of them. However,
Downpour, baby. Downpour's all right. The Wii one is pretty good.
Yeah.
Downpour's bad, actually. Downpour's bad, but the Wii one is pretty good. The Wii one's pretty good.
But I was
It's
considering
early Sam Barlow stuff. Yeah.
I was considering doing exactly this and playing through all the Metal Gear games because I love it so much. Oh, and I want to see what happens when you put Rob Zacny in front of a Metal Gear Solid game. Ooh, I need to know.
I need to tell y'all, like, I could not have gotten a worse introduction to Metal Gear.
Okay.
A friend of mine to, like, you know how, like, really the last really heated generation of console war, like, fandom was 360 versus PS3, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Friend of mine was like, I am all in on the PS3. And I don't just mean, like, I like my PS3. I mean, morally, it is a superior product.
Right.
And I need to show you the full power of my PS3. So you're going to come over. We all just graduated. So you're going to come over to my place. And I'm going to show you Metal Gear Solid 4. We're going to play through it.
Ugh.
And so I played through, sitting shotgun with my friend, a Metal Gear Solid 4, a game I had no context for. None. Zero.
What?
And so every 10 seconds, he's like, oh, I can explain what's going on. And then he would start talking. And I was like, this is not clarifying things very much for me at all. And also that game was hard as hell. Like, it was, those boss fights were mean. And so, like, it was like hitting some of those boss fights was tough. And so, like, my impression of Metal Gear has always been like, well, I assume then every other game is just Metal Gear Solid 4 in terms of vibe, like, worldview, etc.
No,
it's just that all the way down.
Oh my
and
god!
So I've always been like, this is like, everyone who's in Metal Gear must be on some level of sicko.
Well,
I mean, that's
Rob, can two things be true?
Yeah.
Can two things be true, that that's a bad introduction and that a lot of Metal Gear fans are sickos?
Yeah. Both things are true. However, I want to see what happens when you put Rob in front of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I want to see Rob Zacny meet oh god, what's his name? Is it Zadornov? Is that Peace Walker?
That's probably Peace Walker. Are you thinking of Electric Guy? Electric Guy?
Yeah.
I think his name starts with a V. He's got electricity powers.
However,
I want Rob to meet the old
Coldman.
sniper. Hot Coldman.
Rob Zacny meet Hot Coldman.
Rob Zacny meet.
Sorry, are you making up a Kojima name?
No. Hot Coldman is a man's name.
Hot Coldman.
Hot Cold Man.
See, this thing, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Rob, believe me, I straddle these worlds.
You need to meet
like
the end,
in it.
Rob.
Yeah, well, I think this remake, which hopefully is fine, will be Metal Gear Solid 3 is a excellent introduction to basically the excesses and the delights of Metal Gear. Like, it has all of the bullshit, but I think it's like the best told story, the most interesting characters. Like, it is like the end, like
the
the
boss.
different ways. Yeah, the bosses are great. I mean, like, it is basically like Metal Gear Solid 3 is a great. How did you feel at the end of that? I feel my tummy full. I'm glad I saw it. I see what people find interesting about it, but no further. Or more likely, based on Rob's past history, is like time to play all of them. But then they'll put out that HD collection as well, right? And so I think they're probably hold off on it for now. But I think there will be if not
that no one can decide whether it's triangle or delta, even on official channels.
I've said delta.
I said delta. But there's been some.
I think they've said delta.
Some. I think it was either maybe PlayStation. Some blog somewhere said triangle. That was like a slightly more official than just like a random person. I remember seeing like triangle being put up, but then also yes, some of the Twitter things said delta instead, and it seems to be nobody knows. I think it's delta. I think that's the pseudo Kojima.
No, there is
pseudo Kojima that they want. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there is a quote from the developers. The Delta symbol was chosen because it fits the concept of the remake project, the Konami spokesperson said. Delta is a character from the Greek alphabet that means change or difference in mathematics and variables, and also has the meaning of changing an amount without changing the structure. And this is part of pointing out that the game isn't going to change the story at all. And it's the original voice actors. They're probably re-recording their lines, but
right. Oh, David
yeah.
Hayter.
No, I think that would be a good. We will play. I can like soft commit to like Rob will play through Metal Gear Solid 3.
I feel like even like lots of those early games. I think there's also just there's a degree of like what is going on with Konami at this point that I want to sort through. Like what, like you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like what do we make? There's a lot of fun stuff. Is there other stuff we gotta is there a better way to go back and play it?
So we'll start at Metal Gear for the MSX.
Even I can't do that, and I tried at one point when they really released the Game Boy Color one. Is Ghost Babel is supposed to be quite good. Rob, do you want to move to another question, or do you have an answer to the?
Oh, I mean, the person who got manhunting onto like a feed can't really be like, damn.
That's fair. You did it. You did. Manhunting is the premier Waypoint Plus offering, and also the only one that is gated. Kato, you might need to push all those at some point. I don't know how you want to handle that. If you could like schedule them so that things
in the public feed, yeah.
I know that if it doesn't all trigger, then well, I don't know. Maybe you'd be able to log in later, but like, you should schedule those out so that everyone can get everything through the feed. Yeah, before the
it's just
even if it doesn't, maybe don't dump it all at once, but over the course of June or something, if people could get the rest of those.
I'm curious whether or not we want to like front load for like. Hey, what if they just decide to turn the feed off in a week versus let's schedule it out so it's not just being dumped all at once.
I don't think it's going to go. I'm not too concerned. And also what I will say is we still have friends that work at Vice that if they needed to do something for us that like, hey, actually it turns out the company is going to just delete that. They would help us get all that stuff pushed. Yeah, so I'm not too concerned about that.
Remap has been aided by many comrades inside headquarters.
100%. All right, let's continue.
So Imran from Sugarland writes, as someone who has loved Waypoint from the very beginning, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for a wonderful run. I know I'm going to have a tough time filling the Waypoint-shaped hole in my heart and podcast feed. Looking back on the past 6+ years, what would each of you consider to be Waypoint's legacy? What would you like Waypoint to be remembered for? Wish you all the best in the future with much love and a hearty FCGH, Imran. So, I think for me, legacy stuff is, I don't know, legacy is tough to talk about when you're in the middle of something. And to an extent, I think just in generally through my career, early on, someone told me that because I was they're sort of making fun of me because early in my career, I used to print out drafts and edit them double spaced and sort of think about how I wanted to.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is Patrick. This is why it was 2 years before I've ever had a pitch rejected. This is the service. But you start making fun of me because it was why are you putting this level of effort into what effectively is a blog post? What are you doing? It's all disposable content. And on the one hand, I recognize that's true. It's all disposable. It all becomes grist for the internet mill, etc. But I never really wanted to feel like I was just making disposable content. I didn't want it all to be just tears in the rain, as it were. And so I think for me, my hope for legacy is to a degree just that there's something that there's a body of work that makes people stop and say these people were here. This is what they did. This is what they were about. And not everything we published or recorded is going to meet that standard. But, I think there are a lot of folks who bring up, various pieces, various podcasts, various exchanges we've had that have really stuck with them, both for serious, important reasons and also just because things were really funny and they just sort of lodged in their brain. And I think I'm good with that. I think in a media ecosystem that takes a lot of careers like ours, a lot of talents like ours, and renders them into disposable content, into stuff that's meant to live for a day and then sort of be forgotten. I like to think that we put some stakes in the ground. We laid some foundations, and even, as years go by, there will still be people who remember what we did, and there'll still be places you can go back and see the work.
I think that's well said. I don't really have much to add other than from like a personal perspective. I've really enjoyed over this period of time. I've really resisted getting into like management side of things. I've always been someone who just like wants to make stuff and kind of you point in the direction and I'll help you do that. And what's been delightful over this whole period is being able to kind of do both of those things, to help be a support structure, as Austin was figuring out a lot of the vision for this place, and then to get to this era where we collectively got to figure out what is it that we want to do. Like we can take real creative ownership of all of this and move forward. And so to actually be part of something that you built, like I feel like for all of Waypoint's struggles internally at Vice in terms of getting attention, resources, it was exceedingly rare that we were ever given any sort of mandate. It was like, do this, do that. And we got a pretty wide latitude to kind of figure out what did we want to do? How do we want to fill our day? What would make us happy and hopefully by extension the audience happy? And to get to do that for as long as we did is a blessing in and of itself. It may not have been, get to hire all the people we wanted, get to go to the places we want to do. No, like there's a lot there's left on the table that I think Waypoint could have been. But broadly speaking, we got to spend most days waking up like, hey, what do you want to do? And that was pretty fucking cool and pretty rare. And so I think the fact that if like we were given that kind of blank check a lot of the time, alongside, like you said, Rob, having something that stands up to a certain standard more often than it didn't, like that's something to be incredibly proud of. And I remain incredibly proud of a lot of the things that I was both directly and tangentially involved in over the time that we've been here.
I think that, Kata, would you like to go first?
No, I was just gonna say douche to douche to douche to douche to douche. But continue.
It's a good pick.
Great. Thank you. I guess the thing I'll say is that like I am a bit of an odd case on this particular episode in that like I only joined a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. But had been listening since the site began. And so I've had like a very particular relationship to Waypoint. It is the website that at the end of the day made me want to write about video games. I sent my first pitch to the site in 2017 for a piece about BattleTech. And it's actually, that piece ended up being the foundation of the piece I wrote about BattleTech 3062 as, a fully fledged like adult human being. But I first pitched the site in 2017. And the reason that I did that was because like Waypoint was a lot of my like media critical and also like the foundation of like my political education for like a really long time. It was like the gateway I had to trying to be a better person. And so like that is the legacy to me. I said as much in my cover letter to the site when I first applied, which it's very funny to now look back on this cover letter. Because I sent this on December 14th, 2021. So now, a year and a half later, I stand by the vision that I had in that cover letter and like I consider my like personal tenure here and my personal work here to not be up to my own standard. I do, however, really firmly believe that the last sentence of this cover letter did come to fruition, which just said, "The ad-based model is dying. You know that better than most. And while rupture is not inherently liberatory, it does mean that we have an opportunity to build something. Let's get to work." And like, I stand by that even now. The ad-based model is dying, and we did have an opportunity to build something. And, I think we did okay. And I'm glad I got to be a part of it at the end.
I found the pitch.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
I love that you said the year so we know how old you were. 17, right?
And it shows. It shows in that pitch.
Yeah.
I think that pitch had that essay had a pretty good argument, and then I thought about it for 3 more years before I actually wrote it.
I sent some
Yeah.
sort of ridiculous thing to Waypoint early on too. I don't remember what though. I'm sure I would be very embarrassed if it came up again.
Yeah.
Don't
The
look.
only reason that I'm not embarrassed that Rob is looking at this is because I know I was 17 years old. That's a different bitch. That's not my problem anymore. They're not my problem now. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Like truly. 2017 Ren gone.
It's not a bad pitch though. Like
No.
it's pretty solid.
No.
I can't remember who was handling pitches by then, but
Yeah.
like it's pretty solid. When did BattleTech come out?
2017. It was like a few months later. It was like maybe a month later.
Okay,
Um,
and so the pitch comes in 2018. That is when the pitch came in. Was June 2018.
2018. Got it.
Setting a pattern. There it is. Ren's like, I got an awesome idea. It's way outside the news cycle.
So outside. No. April 24th, 2018 was when BattleTech
Okay.
came out. So only like 3 months after
Yeah.
the game came out. Still not good. But yeah, no.
But it's very
that's-
funny. Like you're in there. Like the writing sample at the end. It's like there's Ren. Like
Yeah,
this
I mean-
it's very cool.
This is why
I don't think did you mention this before? I had never looked it up.
I had mentioned it to you once before, but I don't think you looked it up. I think I said like in passing that I had pitched Waypoint when I was like 18, and now I know that I was 18 years old.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I have a very weird like relationship to this site. It really shaped a lot of who I am, and you know, Rob makes a good point. A lot of the ideas I have are for games that came out fucking months or years prior, because that is the time scale that I think on. Is that like I try to like dwell on things for a long time until I have like, you know, something solid. And like this is part of why I have like struggled in media and like struggled with the media format, is that like I like to think about things for longer periods of time.
I mean, I think I have famous like that I hate that we have to do like what's the best game of the year thing right as the year is wrapping, and I'm like, how could you possibly even know that? Like you just don't know. I don't know.
There's games that came
until,
out in
like, we've
December
had-
I am not done with.
Yeah, but it's also like you just have to. You need space to like
Yeah.
reflect on experiences, and yeah, the industry is like it is hard to do that in
Yeah.
the way things are set up.
Yeah. And so like that is the other complicated thing about my like legacy with the website, and like my feeling about Waypoint Legacy is that like a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I didn't get the chance to because they were like not at the right time. And also like, you know, I was not the best version of myself while I was here. I wish that I had started working here at age 25 and not age 22 for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that is the pattern. Like, I am somebody who is continually. I talk about this a lot with MK, and I have so much therapy between the two of us. Like, there's our college loans, but then I think if you add it up, like, how much have you spent on therapy over the years? A fair bit, but like, I sometimes get very frustrated with how much easier I find it to like live as myself and like just like do the things and throw the levers and work the machine here at like age almost 40. And it's like, this shit's just so easy. Like, why didn't I do this before? And it's like, because you needed about another decade of self-knowledge and improving medication to really get a grip on all this. But it is a sort of fact of life that you continually get better at being you, and then you go back and you're like, well, shit, like the me of now, would have smoked it in my rookie season.
Yeah.
But that is the pattern.
I think obviously like I agree with kind of Rob's like take on like just like being proud of like a higher percentage of the work that we make than just looking at other places output being like, I feel like our batting average was high. And related to that, I think one of the big things that is even, obviously allowing us to continue in some form is the fact that it's gathered such a like engaged and welcoming and like frankly amazing community. Like I think that's one of the big legacies too. It just even from the way that like it was set up to be like fully like community run in a way where like other places will have like troubles with how you pick moderators or like how what like how you organize a community around a thing that is a business. Like the early work that Danica did in gathering mods, in talking about how we want to lay out rule structures, I think led ultimately to a community, like one of the few communities I feel like truly like, I don't know, like there's a lot of communities where like I would say like 80% of the people are chill and 20% are like weirdos about things that I like don't want to interact with. And I'm like that number is like 97.3 in the Waypoint community.
Yeah.
Like there aren't that many weirdos that are like, and like eventually they tend to get weeded out just by the rules being kind of very thoughtfully written around making that space like welcoming to as broad a like category of like many marginalized identities as possible, you know. And like sometimes people, you know, a lot of people have brushed up against that, being like, well, it feels like kind of stifling in certain ways, but it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be the only place you interact with people. Like I was willing to give like a certain amount of like, okay, I know that I in my normal life might not abide to these like structures, like, but that's fine. This is a different space, and I actually enjoy that it is the way that it is, because it's legitimately unique amongst gaming spaces online. Mm-hmm. And I love that for it. I love our community, and I love how big the Destiny community is within that.
No, it's a very good point. The again, like the foundations that were laid down were incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And it helped that like so many of the mods were incredibly cool and generous and thoughtful and talented people. You were one of them. Like I remember my first 2 years working here, like whenever a stream was starting to get a little bit off the rails or like we're running a technical glitch, like I would just be like, is Kato in chat? Kato-kun, are you
if I was there? Around, yeah, I would love to help.
Kato will be able to parachute in. And so like
sometimes I was walking dogs, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that.
You know, we got through, but yeah, it's that community's been terrific. And like it is something that, you know, we're very, very proud of. Like, you know, obviously you have things like SavePoint that really showcase what our community is capable of and its generosity and willingness to give of itself. But I think, you know, in a lot of ways, what I find more impressive is the day-to-day, right? Where it's like, just how do they conduct themselves on the day-to-day when no one's looking, when nothing big is going on? Like, just how are they handling, you know, their business? How are they treating each other? You know, what environment are they creating? And it's a great one.
Related to that, I know this is like, maybe we'll communicate this in the other podcast, but like we don't have plans at the moment to spin up like a separate Discord or anything related to this. I think we look at the existing Discord that came out of Waypoint as in some ways connected to us, in many ways disconnected, and has become its own thing that intersects with the work that we do. Maybe things will change down the line where we feel, oh, hey, like what that is and what we're doing now feel distinct enough that there would be a path towards. But like for like logistical reasons, like we don't have the bandwidth to get that, bring new mods in or exist. You know, it's a lot for what we're already at. But like, you know, I at the moment, like we are not planning to like spin up like a remap specific Discord, at least in the extreme short term.
I think for me, it's like, we'll see if the Waypoint community ends up being sort of the unofficial home of Remap as it was for Waypoint. But yeah, I think at least for the moment, I certainly don't feel like spinning up a new community that I think, you know, we'd be reinventing the wheel in a lot of ways and undertaking work that we're, that have been solved, via the Waypoint community. So we'll see what that relationship, how that relationship develops, down the road. And a lot of that's in the community's hands, but that is where we're sort of leaving this for now. Is it Alan Wake or Alan Woke? Thanks for all the years. Can't wait to see what you all do next.
Well, it has to be a wake, not a woke, right? That doesn't work. Oh, does it? I awoke one morning. Is that real? Am I making up a word? Awoke?
Awoke? Awoke is a word.
Awoke.
Man,
It doesn't sound
if
good.
Alan Woke.
Nor does going woke, Kato. So you know what? Frankly, it just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be so crushed if at the end of Alan Wake 2, he's set free by opening a portal to BasedCon. I would just be like,
I can't believe
well,
we never talked about that.
pack it in.
Oh my god.
Let's see here. Rob, looking back, what was the best purchasing decision you made from all the Waypoint product rabbit holes? The monitor, the oven, the keyboard. Love you all and will follow you anywhere. FCGH, Luke from Oregon. Well, Luke, my hope is that the best purchasing decision I've made is getting the Waypoint Plus business on a Vice and remapradio.com. My I guess number 2 on my list of hopes is that microphone is awesome, so I don't have Patrick lording it over me for the rest of forever.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. Y'all ever have any problems with my audio? No, it's fine, right? It's fine.
I sometimes think something was unleashed in the world when I broke that oven. I feel like a lot of things began changing.
It was a
after the
vibe
oven.
shift. There was a vibe shift around the oven. The oven began a new era.
Yeah, like when I look back on it, sometimes I'm like, life after the oven has felt increasingly different than life before the oven. And so sometimes I'm a little bit like, was there a cursed, like, was something unleashed? But I do think the new oven was a great purchasing decision. And one that inaugurated a new era, a new world that is struggling to be born. Jambo writes, when are the 4 of you doing a Syndicate 2012 multiplayer reunion stream? Well, Jambo.
Oh my god.
Friday, baby.
Maybe not Friday, but sometime in the next week.
Next week.
Oh, right.
Before-
Friday's the bull. Is the Bears.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the Bears.
The Bears.
And we have until the 15th, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
We are, but
we
That's
could
next
do it.
week.
I have to fly to LA. Well, we could do it next week. I don't fly out till Thursday morning, not
Right.
until the 8th.
do it.
So
Yeah,
we
do
do
it.
have time
We
before
should-
then.
Yeah.
I think we should do it next week.
Yeah. Maybe book a couple sessions because like those missions are meaty, and I think the first day will be.
We
us
can't just
learning
do a
how to play the
stream.
game.
It's like, no, we have to book out a 4-part.
This is our last chance. We have to eat. We have to
Yeah.
clear the table. We have to eat
Yeah.
that. We have to eat that banquet like empty.
And you should play the campaign first.
I'm not going to do any of that.
Wait, should we?
Everyone should play the campaign, but that's not going away. You'll still be able to play the campaign,
Right,
I think.
Yeah,
it's just the
yeah,
online
definitely.
services.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, Jambo, we got you covered. As soon as we figure out how we're going to get copies of that, I think it's going to require some like side door methods.
System Shock took us 6 months, but we're gonna get through Syndicate in a week.
Flip that audio.
No, everything will be different as Remap.
Yeah.
Like Remap as a site will be like an empire of executive function. Like we're gonna be like, bam, we just did a Syndicate 101 effectively.
Boom.
Look at us
You're
go.
You're ship posting, but since the layoff, my executive function has improved astronomically. Something cognitive load.
Yeah, that can help. Yeah.
I too have been I've proven to be a rock star at being semi-employed. For sure. That like I've also been like, oh man, like oh, life's feeling good. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I will take this dog for a long walk first thing in the morning. I got no place to be, and that's been great.
We'll just go to this design doc.
What?
Nothing.
All right. Let's see here. Okay. If capitalism was a living, breathing being, not necessarily human, but maybe humanish, what would you say to capitalism? What if morals is of no concern? What would you do to capitalism?
I don't like the way you said that.
I don't.
I don't think I can give an answer that won't get me in trouble.
I mean, the easy thing is just kill them.
Yeah.
You kill capitalism. We kill
and that's where I'll stop.
the direct descriptions of how. You just leave that up to the imagination.
Actually, let's spinning off that, somebody wrote in, are dipshit execs destroying the criticism and journalism industry with predictive AI writing? Is that the thing that's killing it, or is that just a symptom of the thing that's killing it?
It's a symptom of the thing that's killing, which is that these execs have been doing the exact same fucking strategy for the last 10 years, and like the strategy is follow the last successful person until it kills all of us.
I mean, I think ultimately, like, what is at odds in all of this, in journalism as a profession is, I mean, you know, you just mentioned capitalism, right? It is a pursuit of never-ending increasing profit as opposed to just profitability. Like, it is not enough to run a business. It has to be a business that makes more money than it was making before, and that is frequently at odds with journalism as an institution in terms of what it's capable of doing. And so it's like that like original foundational flaw is just exaggerated in the era that we live in. And, you know, I mean, the ability to escape that and, you know, do things on your own. The problem, of course, being that, you know, it's one thing to escape the orbit of a company and like, look, you know, we can make money, but that also doesn't hire you like you lose the things that go with the big company, right? So it's like, you know, when I think about, you know, Remap and what does or doesn't constitute, you know, an editorial presence for that. I mean, I think I would project to you on the lower end of that, especially in the short term. But it's like, what, am I going to go write a story about Unity or whatever, knowing that Remap would be directly sued as opposed to consulting with, you know, a lawyer like that. So it's like on some level, you can't remove this original sin, which is that got to keep making more money. Can't just do enough to do the job well and like to make people happy and have livable lives and be able to do all the things they want to do in addition to the good work. But when you escape that, you also have your own issues. Like there are benefits from being part of big institutions that can afford things like that with multiple revenue sources. So I don't know. I don't know how you change that. I think that is ultimately, I mean, you have things like New York Times, right? Like they bought Wordle, like they bought The Athletic, like they had, like, setting aside whatever you think about the like reporting at the New York Times, like that is how you try and diversify. Like you have a subscription and then reasons like people are coming into it that aren't just built.
But then if they do that, they begin cutting athletic staff and like beats that they're like,
yeah, I'm not saying it's perfect. Yeah. But like you can see like a model there that's like, hey, in theory, like people are going to watch sports even if their team is bad. Look at Rob and I, you know what I mean? It's like, does that allow us to like have a bureau in a part of the world that otherwise we cannot financially justify? Like you can see how you can structure that, but it's still you know, it's still a public company. Like it still has its own issues. And like without like, you know, direct funding from sources that don't have those conflicts, you're ultimately always going to have those conflicts.
I think so. Kotaku published a piece the other day about AI in games writing, and like it was getting dragged a lot online, and I understand why that is. And one of the arguments that John Walker wrote it, and one of the things he pointed out is that if you come down to it, there's a lot of disposable writing in games. A lot of writing in games, already feels as if like a machine could have written it. That it's kind of like really mediocre. And the thing that I think is missing from an analysis like that, I think there's a bit of ungenerosity to it at a baseline, but I think the thing that is like kind of missing from that is a lot of things are already being forced into a shape by project managers, by bosses, by the people who have control over the product and sort of set the agenda. And I think that's happening across a lot of creative fields where there are things being done by humans that does feel like really compromised and maybe low quality, maybe like really replaceable. Like, do you really need a person to make this thing? And I think one of the reasons it feels like, oh, you don't really need you don't really need a person to do this, is because by design they crush the individual expression out of it. They crush the personality out of a lot of the things that we consume. And I think in some ways, when I look at the shift toward like, oh, we see all these things being done by AI in the future, in some ways it is because the field is already delimited in ways where like it has been set up that a machine could maybe step in and create things that take the shape of the work being done because you're not letting people create things outside that shape.
Yeah, the labor is already devalued. Like at its core, like writers are already severely understaffed in game. The vast majority of studios, the writing team is severely understaffed because it is, for executives, very frequently not a priority. And like even for like directors, not a priority. And so, I don't think that AI isn't new. It's just another shitty tool.
Yeah.
Like it's just another shitty tool that people are going to use to like hurt people. It's faster. It is like more ontologically troubling, but like it's not a sea change. And like anyone who tries to convince you that it is, that like this is something completely new or revolutionary is like at the end of the day, I think trying to grift you. Because like this is an extension and they are trying to sell you something.
Yeah. I mean, it's no accident that like the AI boom comes on the heel of like crypto and blockchain stuff like collapsing, is because they've tried to sell you on a thing that like a mass adoption of a thing that didn't have any inherent value. Now they're on like, now tech companies are looking for exposure to a new thing. But like, I still feel like, taking our jobs in particular, as an example, like, we've all talked about there's a lot of places that kind of live and die by SEO traffic, right? Like we've all found the sites that like things are written to be consumed by Google, like search crawler, and get page rank via that. And so of course it's no wonder that you have executives saying like, well, why do we even need staff writers to do this? Because they've already sort of created a paint by numbers system where like the humans in it can't even write what they would normally write. They can't create like a piece with themselves in it. They're already creating a thing that like, this will sound good to a robot. This will read as authoritative to a robot. And so it was a very short step to say like, well, then why couldn't a robot write things for the other robot? But what I think what I think gets missed in this is nobody actually wants this.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
The whole thing is kind of illusory. Like the crushing of the creative out of the process was like done kind of to leverage this entire model.
It's a big trick. Like that's the thing is that like no when SEO sites do the thing that they do in terms of like actual like product, there is no like increase in value occurring even for the advertisers, right? Because like what happens is someone clicks on that page, sees it for 6 seconds, sees that it doesn't have the information that they need, and then leaves. And like eventually there will come a time where someone points that out to the wrong person in the wrong boardroom. And then suddenly they're like, oh, I guess maybe this just doesn't work and we'll have to try a wholly new ad model. And then maybe they will build a new ad model. And like suddenly it's new numbers.
Yeah.
And people are writing around new shitty metrics. For a second there, it seemed like there was a world in which people realized that like, time on page was a vital metric. Like people realized that time on page was a vital metric, and like it felt like it was close, and then it didn't. And then like SEO and like pure clicks continued to be the thing. And I just don't think that none of this is new.
Yeah. And I think part of the model is they try to foreclose the ability for alternatives to exist. Like that is the other part of this is, I think a game written by AI will be a shitty game. I think the only way it works is if like you are deploying it in games that are of such massive scale that it just like has people glomming onto it, and games of the smaller scale, like hand created, can't really compete. I don't see this like the thing I'm very skeptical of in that piece is the notion that like it will be a force multiplier for small independent creators. I don't think that is true. I think this arms race will like this is another tool, and it will favor large players who can wield it more effectively.
Yeah, I was going to say, who can build models? Because again, that's the thing, is that all of this is fucking smoke and mirrors because it still requires you to build a model. Like, if you are asking a small independent team to like build the proper large language model to handle their writing for them, good fucking luck to them. To be able to produce something that is actually able to be coherent would require a lot of like real hands-on engineering that like is going to, for a small team, not be worth it. Just hire a writer.
Well, especially because AI fucks up in ways that are hard to identify. And actually are much harder to identify than there are some, and in retrospect now I almost question these experiences, whether what was going on is what I think was going on. There are some writers I work with that like, editing them is very simple. It's very clear to see, like, even if they're not good writers, sometimes it's like, oh, it's clear like what the issues are. Here's the things I have to do. There are some pieces that have come in that are like subtly but ineffably unmistakably fucked up. And trying to get it like, why is it all just a little bit wrong? Is the quality of like what I see from AI generated art and writing, where it's like, this is bad, but it's not bad in the way that like an unskilled person creates something bad. It's bad in a much weirder and harder to identify way.
Right. And hey, Rob, what is the labor cost on those edits compared to
worse?
Yeah, significantly worse, because what's going to happen is that these systems are going to be built, they're going to be shitty, and then people will hire editors. And those editors will be stuck doing shitty labor trying to discern what exactly went wrong in a piece of writing that they have never touched, and they cannot look at a person and say, why did you do this? What went wrong here?
Yeah. No,
they just have to fix it themselves.
Yep. And it will be like rewriting something effectively. It will be really bad. And so that's kind of my view. Is like I think the AI stuff is being pushed to basically complete or advance catastrophic like sea changes that have happened in a variety of industries that predate AI. And reflect other parts of the business model. So that's sort of where I stand on all this. Someone asked a good question. Does Patrick still dump the coffee his wife makes down the drain?
No, I think that is an aggressive interpretation of all that, which is that sometimes we don't put enough of the grounds in, but we're learning. And no, she has made the coffee and set the timer for years now, and no complaints. We're good to go.
Nice.
Jack writes one. This one might be best for Patrick. How close was Waypoint to the original vision / pitch? What has surprised you about Waypoint's evolution?
Pretty close. I mean, it's difficult. I'm sure there was like a formal pitch Austin made. I don't know if I've seen that deck or if I saw it. It was a long time ago. But like some of the, I've said this before, but like some of the original genesis of the idea was born out of the experiences that Austin and I had at Giant Bomb, which was wanting to talk about games as more than just vehicles for fun, and the friction we saw from the audience, which is partially because we were kind of coming out of left field with those discussions and a lot of other things that aren't worth getting into here. It's like, well, could you build a place where you just said, instead of you've gone to an existing community and said, can we talk about this? And some people are like, I'm just really not interested. Like, what if you made that the tip of the spear? It's like, that's the pitch. It's like, we're going to think of games as political, cultural objects. We're going to talk about all the ramifications of that. Could you develop a community that said, I find that interesting? And if you don't, you know what you're getting from the beginning. And I think, the taglines like why we play and things like that were born out of that original intention to treat games as more than just like vehicles for fun and joy. And like the nice part is like so many things have sprung up around that. It's like, if that's not interesting to you, don't worry. There's plenty of places where like that is how games are treated, and that can be totally fair. And I think we like more than succeeded on that pitch. I think that has been sort of like one of the central ways we've thought about the site since its earliest days. And, even if the way we have engaged with that topic, which is like less on an editor, exactly, Mina. Sometimes we just wrote less. Less with words, that are typed into a computer, more with words that are coming out on a stream. I know that was that period where we did a bunch of streams, and like, why were we doing all those? Well, they told us to do more streams. They said take Twitch seriously, and so we did. We've always changed the form that it came in. It's not like a subproduct was not something we had in mind. In fact, we were kind of running away from that model. It's like, can we do it where we have a giant audience that is not just people subbing? And we still ended up kind of at the sub model at the end of the day. So no, I think it was very much take games seriously because you should, and we did, and I think that is definitely an ethos that we've carried from start to finish.
I was continually surprised by how consistently we were pushed towards personality-led stuff. I shouldn't have been in retrospect, but like, I was surprised that it makes sense. Like, it was a hell of a lot easier for us to get together and be funny as a group than it was to like do a lot of features and criticism and such. Like, it was always easier to just get on the mic and like see what happens. But like, it was astonishing how, like, I think there are moments where you have a like, oh wow, like I have a complete, like, am I even conceiving of my job the correct way, right? Because for years into Waypoint, I'm like, predominantly I'm writing. I feel really anxious because I'm not writing enough. I'm not like editing enough. Like, what's going on here? And then you look at, okay, but what's paying the bills? Like, what's the business model? And it's like, well, that time you all just randomly talked about Pride and Prejudice for like 12 hours was really good. And that's a really weird.
Not good enough for them to let us keep that feed.
No, but even that was just kind of random. Like that was strategic, like sort of just weird, like whipsawing at the top. But like, it was one of those moments where it was like, do I have the right like paradigm for what Waypoint is and what our jobs here are and should be? And that was a continual surprise where it was like, in a lot of ways, as we sort of respond, as you want to give people more of what they like and what they're responding to. And it was always sort of surprising to be like, wow, y'all are just going to keep letting us get weirder, huh?
Well, the audience, not necessarily the business. There was a period where, right, when Waypoint Plus was getting serious, where I had resisted a lot of this, like pretty vocally, because I had heard a lot of this talk before, and I always felt sometimes my responsibility, even as things like the Pride and Prejudice stuff was happening, is like, well, I'm going to keep writing articles. Well, I didn't really want to be part of that series anyway. I was like, you go forth and flourish, and don't you don't need to hear Patrick going like, do we really need to do another one of these? Like, it was just not my place, and it was better for it. But I remember there was specifically a conversation, I think you vocalized it when we were like sort of getting to the like, hey, Waypoint Plus is actually thing that's going to be happening. It was sort of like, are you on board? Are you actually going to make stuff for this? Because in the past I'd been like, as these indulgences went further and further, I was like, I felt in some ways a responsibility to keep writing articles because like I think I'm helping keep the lights on. Where it's like, if I have articles that go viral, do a lot of traffic, I know that what they're paying attention to is that more than a really engaged community watching 6 episodes of Pride and Prejudice, wherever that run ended up at. And then when it became brass tacks, we're like, oh, this is really going to happen. I was ready to be full-throated into it and like totally throw myself into that, writing a lot less, producing a lot more in that direction. But like that was definitely like an underlying tension over the course of the 6+ years of the site, was where we felt we were being pulled by the community or what we wanted to do and how those two intersected, but also the realities of how are we being judged? What is actually justifying our salaries or allowing people to maybe rationalize them? And then we ended up in this place.
Last question here. I think it's a good one. Should I resubscribe to Waypoint Plus?
Well, yes,
Yes and
actually.
no.
Wait, please.
Like Waypoint Plus, like as you were hearing
the
this
same account.
podcast, it's changed. It'll be
It's
renamed.
the same picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corporate
same.
needs you to tell us the difference. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. You should resubscribe to the business formerly known as Waypoint Plus, now known as Remap Radio. You can learn more at remapradio.com. That will do it for Waypoint Radio. That's it. There's that is the run. For old time's sake, if you want more from Waypoint, you're out of luck. Waypoint legacy Twitter account is at Waypoint on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Waypoint Vice. However, the new company you'll be able to find on Twitter at Remap Radio. How did we do Facebook?
Let's not do a Facebook.
Okay, but YouTube, Remap Radio.
Remap Radio.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow me on Twitter at Rob Zachney. But boy, if anyone just wants to, like, I wish I could follow Rob on Blue Sky. Just let me know. Just tell me. I would love to be on Blue Sky
help Rob
to be followable. We are Remap Radio on Blue Sky. Thank you to a friend who hooked us up. Patrick, where can people follow you?
Still on Twitter. I just wanted Twitter to stay intact through announcing these projects.
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's a bad place, but it's so easy to blast to a bunch of people. It's like, please just get me through. If I can get through this, then it all can fall apart. Because then we'll have our own little things and people we can talk to. But yeah, so you can follow me over at Patrick Klepek when this podcast is dropped. It'll be on the eve of also me launching the other big project that I've spent like dozens and dozens of hours preparing for. Thank you, Kato.
You're welcome.
Called Crossplay, which is I'm describing as a newsletter at the intersection of parenting and video games, which is going to be a big part of my time that I'm going to spend over the summer as we're sort of figuring out, like, what is the shape of Remap? And like, one of the things I want to do is, like, you know, I've written about video games and reporting on video games for a long time, and I've been an amateur parent for almost 7 years, basically alongside the same era of Waypoint. And so
I think you went pro with the second kid.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
kind
probably
of the
true.
outrage right there.
And I've written a bunch of articles. A bunch of that's going live on Friday, June 2nd at some point when I, you know, get a chance to breathe and hit publish and all that. And it'll be a kind of spread of things that are the kind of articles I want to write. It's all going to be free on Friday, June 2nd to kind of as like kind of a launch issue. But much like Remap, like this is something I'm trying to build a business out of. I'm trying to build see if there's an audience for this. I'm very thankful. Many people who coming out of the Waypoint community have already pledged to support the work over there. And so if you go to crossplay.news or patrickklepek.substack.com, you'll be able to sort of read what I'm proposing. And if you want to subscribe, there will be some things that are free, but you know, like the feature stories will be free, like the big, hey, investigation into Roblox or things like that. Like that stuff will be available to everyone, but some of the more personal stuff. And if you feel like supporting that work, you can do that over there, and we'll see what happens.
Kato, where can people follow you?
On Twitter at @A_Kato_appears. We have a co-host too. Gotta shout it out. /Remap Radio.
Remap Radio.
We have an
Remap
Instagram.
registers-
We have an Instagram. No Facebook, but we have an
Instagram.
Instagram.
Oh, you have an Instagram?
I made all the
Instagram?
accounts, baby. I mean, we
Then we got to grab it. We have to grab a Substack too.
Yeah,
Again,
we
like
should.
if we might
Shit.
we haven't formalized this, but like if things do get published, maybe it makes more sense there than anywhere
Yeah.
else. So
there will be a
We'll
web.
let you know.
Yeah, we have a website. What goes on the website? We don't know. Right now, it's a sign-up page, or it should be a sign-up page.
Should be, might not be. We'll see. We'll see.
Depends
how
on when
things
this
go.
drops. Timing? What's that? It's too late for me to ask for suggestions. But I'll be on the hopefully no longer on the hunt, but moving equipment.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Ren, where can people find you?
You can follow me on twitter.com/Ren or Raven. Kato, I will tell you if you have to bleep this out in a minute. However, You can also find me on the new game studio that I am working on, that I'm working at, Farewell Games, where we are working on a narrative tactical RPG called Sun Doesn't Set. You can follow them at Farewell Dev. I'm very excited about that. Aside from that, if that all just got cut, you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Ren or Raven, where I will be continuing to stream the Silent Hill series until, I guess I'm no longer doing Metal Gear. Maybe I will stream another like game that I really love. Maybe I'll do Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, or perhaps Dragon's Dogma, because 'tis the season.
Is the dogma.
Tis the dogma. And also, pay attention to my Twitter. Maybe I'll post a video essay. I have like scripts and like plans and outlines sitting around, and this may be the time that I execute on them before I switch to full-time development. And so, yeah, thank you for having me.
What's the name for like a multiple of ravens?
It's a unkindness.
An unkindness?
Yeah, it's an unkindness of ravens.
And a
audience give
murder
you
of crows.
Yeah, it's a murder of crows and an unkindness of ravens, which, but let me just say, is sick as fuck.
It's great.
It's pretty good.
That's sick as hell. Like, just say the phrase "an unkindness on the horizon."
Beautiful.
That's
so
delicious.
So powerful.
Yeah.
That's vibes, baby. You can just find me cultivating vibes at twitter.com/RenOrRaven.
You can go check out what we published on waypoint.vice.com. Maybe there will be some farewell essays to waypoint.vice.com. I certainly kind of intended to maybe write something, but it's Tuesday.
Yeah. We're running out of time here.
On the other hand, maybe I'll start a Substack or a blog. Wouldn't that be wild? It was just like,
hey,
Blogspot.
It does occur to me as we hit the conclusion here that people probably would want to hear our thoughts about the last 6 years of Waypoint. And if you were to do something like that, it would probably be the most prudent thing to put that on the new thing as opposed to the old thing.
Yeah.
As much as it's neat that like the last thing published there would have that.
I think, you know what? I am good with the last thing I published at Waypoint being a review of a monitor that flexes.
Yeah, that's a great way to go out. What is my last? Like, I think my last one is
I don't want to look at my last one.
The big. Let's see, what's the last thing on my byline? Oh, the Jedi Survivor one about reviewing games, and then before that was the big feature about
going out on top.
Yeah, those are good pieces. I was happy with both those. So yeah, you know what? Fuck it. You want to read my epilogue on Waypoint? I don't know if remapradio.substack.com exists, but maybe it will sometime in the near future.
And hey, thanks to Waypoint Plus, we were able to stay employed for 2 more years.
Yeah.
And thanks to Remap Radio, hopefully y'all will be able to continue to listen to us. As you are listening to this, we are probably still streaming on twitch.tv/Waypoint. You'll be able to catch our sort of farewell stream there. The file will be up.
Yeah, depending on the timing. Might be over on
twitch.tv/Remap Radio. And hopefully once we've all been laid off, we'll be able to do something fun on Friday. And then Games Fest is coming, and there will be stuff happening around that as well. So stay tuned to that. For our Remap Radio subscribers, goodness, we have subscribers. We will have some stuff upcoming. You're gonna get those System Shock 101s. See, this was all drawn up. This was the play. This was the master plan. We were going to run the clock until we do a side-by-side comparison of OG System Shock and the remake.
Mm-hmm. It was intentional.
So, we didn't fuck up and fail to schedule this repeatedly or come with any kind of cadence. We designed to play, and it is time for that to pay off.
According to Keikaku.
What?
Sorry, it's an anime joke. According to Keikaku,
you lived on the internet. You
must have seen that before.
You've seen it.
I don't.
It's a fan subbed screenshot of
all
Death
according
Notes,
to plan.
all according to plan, but they translated it as all according to Keikaku, and then there's a little asterisk, and then at the top of the screen it says Keikaku means plan.
Incredible, fantastic. Our theme music is by Bowen. The track is Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Learn more at waypoint.zone/BOEN. For now, we are calling time on this podcast. We will talk to you again over at Remap Radio. Until then, fuck capitalism, go home, and we just got our first annual subscription.
Godspeed, gamers.
Shit.
見えないでしょ。